All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, as it should say in the streets, what it do, baby? It is your boy Pride with you guys on this fabulous morning. I am joined by Dustin and Chris. Dustin, how you feeling today, my guy?
Pretty good. Official start of baseball begins today, just not on the MLB side of things.
Yes, it's which we'll actually talk about that because college baseball might get even more of a spotlight depending on how all this stuff pans out. Chris, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Great.
Another day in paradise. Dustin, as you wanted to bring it up, we'll just get right into it. We are still in a lockout.
No,
God knows when anyone, when all this stuff is going to get resolved.
Never.
Look. The owners aren't budging. The players don't want to budge either. This is not going to be a year where they can just do the minimum to just start the season and move on. I think this is the most power the players will ever have. And, get everything you can because, once you sign it, you're not going to have any more power outside of this. Dustin, let me ask you a question. Let's say, let's play devil's advocate, and let's say for some reason they will never, or this year, they never reach an agreement and there is no season. What do you think should happen?
I mean, baseball is going to be dead if they don't have a season this year because out of all the sports, they're the ones that have alienated the fans the most. NFL had a lockout in 2012, 2013, but it lasted for like a month.
Yep.
NBA had a lockout in 2012, and it only, I think, lasted 2 months. They still lost 20 games, but they at least got things resolved relatively quick.
Mm-hmm.
This is the third time in the last 30 years that baseball's had a lockout, but the first time since 1994. So it's been a while. But this is something that has been brewing for like the last 5 years. And you've heard it basically the last 5 years where everyone said once the CBA expires, you're going to have another lockout. So this isn't something that's coming out of nowhere.
Right.
The fact that everyone knew that this was going to happen for 5 years, and yet the two sides really couldn't agree on something over the last 5 years is just kind of pathetic. You heard him start talking last year, but the talks really didn't get far. And then once the season started, they just kind of said, well, screw it. We're playing a season. We'll just wait until the season's over and try to resolve everything in 3 weeks, which realistically, you knew that wasn't going to happen. They should have been working on this the last 3 years. They should have been trying to put all the pieces together and just try to figure out things little by little by little. So when they got to that drawing board this fall, they could have been like, well, this is what we've discussed over the last 3 years. What works for you? What doesn't work for you? And let's just come to an agreement. Otherwise, we're never going to agree on anything because nobody's happy with whatever anybody says.
Which honestly is a very excellent point that, again, people haven't really been touching on, Chris. Listen, everyone has had an opportunity because everyone saw this coming. They've had the opportunity to, at the bare minimum, before we got to this point, to sit down, have a conversation and say, you know what? Yeah, let's start talking about this now. So that way, when the season's over, we're good. We, at the bare minimum, have a rough draft that we can go on with 4 or 5 main topics already handled. Do you think if they went that route, this lockout could potentially never have happened?
Yeah, I think I agree with what Dustin said. If you get out in front of it like that, then you have a whole lot better chance of the lockout not happening because you're giving yourself 2 or 3 years instead of just a few months. Also think I agree with Dustin on that. If they go on strike again, it's going to kill baseball. The last strike in '94 killed baseball. Only thing that brought it back is steroids, which we're going to talk about that here in a little while. That might be what they're shooting for this time, because if they don't play a season at all, I think it kills Major League Baseball.
And yeah, honestly, at this point, there'd be no point in putting college games. Because
Well,
I've seen people say that, but I'm like, I don't think it matters.
The thing is, too, like, I'm not going to compare minor league baseball to Major League Baseball because it's completely different. But COVID completely canceled the minor league season in 2020. And you saw how much of an effect that had on, like, these minor league cities. Because a lot of these smaller cities that have minor league teams depend on that 3-4 months for a lot of their yearly revenue. Yes. So not only did they lose the revenue in 2020, but 2021, all these minor league parks had limited attendance for the first half of the season. It's a big reason why a lot of these minor league teams folded, because they lost so much money the last 2 years, and they knew that regardless how many people came back last year, it wasn't going to be enough to save the money they lost. Obviously, Major League Baseball has a bigger market, but you look at Tampa Bay, Oakland, and all these other small markets. How many of these small market teams are going to be able to survive another year with lost revenue? Obviously, like New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, that's one thing where they can survive because of their TV contracts and everything. Yes. But all these small, like middle markets and all these small markets, they can't afford to lose money for a third straight year. And if they do, they're going to be like those teams that go 20 years, like when the Pittsburgh Pirates went the entire 90s up until 2010 without a winning season. All these small market teams are going to go kind of into like the cellar dweller where they can't compete because they're losing too much money.
Yep. And it's crazy too that you said that, because so I'm a Red Sox fan, right? And where I live in South Carolina, I live in Greenville, and one of the minor league affiliates for the Boston Red Sox is here. And they actually, it was this weird thing that I actually saw. They had to take a loan, which is weird because even though they're owned by the Red Sox, it's still considered a loan. It's weird. It's weird. But they actually had to take a loan to actually keep not only the stadium up, to pay some, to basically to keep that entire operation rolling.
Myrtle Beach had to do
goes
the same
over
thing.
To what you're saying, Dustin. Like, you know, the Yankees, they got money, so they'll be able to do it. You know what I mean? Like the Dodgers, the Padres, like some of these teams might be able to do it. The Colorado Rockies, Miami Marlins, some of these teams that are already kind of struggling.
Well, like here in Indianapolis, we have the Indianapolis Indians, or here in Indiana, I'm not in Indianapolis, but we have the Indianapolis Indians. Well, they're the minor league team for the Pittsburgh Pirates. A team like that probably isn't going to be able to afford to miss another season. And I've already seen where MLB's requested to eliminate hundreds of minor league contracts already.
Yeah, that's I think that ultimately I think is going to seal the fate of Major League Baseball too, because if you look at how things are in Major League Baseball, you have 26-man rosters right now. And if you go to the minor leagues, figure each minor league team has a minimum of 5 organizations. Yep. Sometimes 6, depending on if you have 2 rookie league teams or only 1. So if you have 30 players per roster, that's 180, which makes sense. 30 players, whatever. You eliminate 30 players from each organization, that brings you down to 150. So now you're roughly around 24, 25 players a roster. Then you have to take into account AAA getting called up to the majors and this and that. You're going to potentially put all these low-level minor league teams at risk because they're not going to have enough people to field a team because you want to take away 30 players in each organization.
Yep. Which I don't yet why they would do that, because again, we also need to understand that like a lot of the great guys that we see comes from the farming system, right? Like a lot of these players that we see now kind of went through the system, was brought up, which again, when you're able to actually spend time, because I don't know, maybe it's just me, but you cutting down the number, and basically it's gonna be like what, like probably 800-900 players around the minors. That's basically just gonna have to be cut, because
and it's not. Well, you got to remember too, they cut the draft from 40 rounds down to 20 rounds.
Right.
So you already eliminated 600-700 players right there just by cutting that draft, and now you want to do this. You're potentially preventing 1,000 players a year. from having a chance to play baseball. That's going to kill your sport.
And not only that, but we also have to look at it like that's so like let's say so that's like 800-900 guys that you're cutting. Now the crazy part about that is when you cut those guys, they're cutting them so that way they could be under the amount allowed. So it's not like they can go and just go, oh, okay, which of all those guys they're cutting, you're not going to tell me every single one they're cutting is horrible at baseball.
No.
I guarantee you at least half of those guys are just young guys that need to develop. And the reason that they're in the minors is because they don't have any room for them in the majors. Like the Miami Marlins, they can't bring any other youngsters up because their roster's already full, which is why they leave them in the minors. So that way when they get better and then they go, okay, so now we got them. Now a lot of them which again is dumb because guess what's going to happen? Now they're going to overly depend on certain positions. And the reason baseball, the draft was so big, why? For only one position, and it was pitching. That's it. That was the only reason why the draft was that big, because every time they pitch, they need what was it? I think it's like a mandatory 3 days off or something like that.
3 to
3 or 4, yeah.
It's like 3 or 4, like a mandatory where they're not allowed to pitch. They're not like I think it's like 2 days before they can even do like a practice where they're kind of just messing around throwing. I think it's like 2 days for them to do that. You know what I mean? So it's like now you're cutting it out. So guess what that means? That means I guarantee you managers are going to start being like, all right, kid, I don't need 6 innings from you anymore, bro. I need 8. You know what I mean? I need like 7.5, a good 8. I'll get a middle reliever in to do a little bit of cleanup, and my closer's only going to, in an ideal world, my closer's going to get the save only facing one batter. But now the problem is you're putting your starting pitchers in a position where they blow their arm out, and now what? Because let's be honest, like there's very few teams that you can get your middle reliever and just start him, and then do like a 3-3-3 set type.
There's a lot of teams that don't have more than two good starting pitchers.
Right, and let's be honest, the reason they're a middle reliever is because they're a solid pitcher. They just don't have the stamina. They don't have the gas like that, which is why, you know what I mean? That's why they're a middle reliever. You know what I mean? Because the momentum is already decided and all that stuff. They just need to go out and just follow the tempo of the game, and then they're fine. Like whatever tempo was set by the starting pitcher. The problem with you cutting these guys is, and we also need to remember something. A lot of the injuries in baseball, a lot of them are the worst type of injury, non-contact injury.
Yep.
Like that is, in my opinion, one of, if not the worst type of injury you can get, because when it's a non-contact injury, more times than not, you're missing at least 2 months. At least 2 months. And what kind of blows my mind a little bit is when you start cutting all these guys, for what? Like, what is the purpose to cut all these guys for?
And what sucks for them, the guys getting cut, is MLB has a stranglehold on the baseball, basically a monopoly where no other organizations can open up here in the United States. So their only option is either go to like Korea or Japan or somewhere overseas just to keep trying to play, if they want to keep their dream alive of trying to get to the major leagues.
And yeah, and it's basically to the point where it's sort of kind of like the NBA, where you got to go to overseas, you got to go to China. I believe Europe has a baseball league. I believe. Dustin, check me if I'm wrong. Let me know. But you basically would have to go overseas. You're gonna have to go overseas to play baseball, which, again, not a lot of guys like that. Think about it. In the NBA, in the MLB, there are some guys who refuse to go to the Toronto Raptors. I'm sorry, the Toronto Blue Jays. Why am I thinking about basketball? There are some guys who don't want to go there because it's just different. Like, I've been to Canada before. It's different.
Yeah.
The sports packages are different. The people are different. You really feel it. Like the atmosphere, just everything about it is different. Now, that is still in the MLB. That is still in the MLB. And there are guys who don't want to go to Toronto because of how different it is. Now, screw that. At least, Canada's the neighbor. Nah, you got to go and fly what, 16 hours? Like, at some point, it's like, it's ridiculous. And then this is still the same league who, guess what? They're going to go over there. And guess what Major League Baseball is trying to do now anyway? They're trying to pillage all the talent from like the Asian baseball leagues, from the Europe baseball. Yep. They're trying to take all their talent anyway. If we're going to be honest.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, most of baseball stars are from different areas. They're not from United States. Most of the big stars.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, the more I look at this entire situation with the lockout, the owners, they're making changes, but they're changing the wrong things. It's like the Player Association is saying we want changes, and the owners are like, yeah, all right, bet we'll give you changes, and then they're just doing random changes, and they're just like, here you go, change. But it's like, if you're changing the wrong thing, what's the point? If anything, you're going backwards. Baseball is already suffering.
And I'm getting very irritated with a lot of the baseball fans that are saying that the players don't want to budge and the players are getting selfish. And I just sit there, I'm like, have you even read about the negotiations? Have you even watched? Because the players have agreed to quite a bit already.
Yes.
It's the owners that haven't agreed to anything the players are presenting. And the one thing the players are presenting that they want the owners to agree on is the whole arbitration process. And for those of our listeners or watchers who don't know what arbitration is, basically a team can control you for 8 years after they draft you. You have your 5-year rookie contract, and then you get 3 additional years is what they call the arbitration years, where it's kind of like an auction where a player feels they're worth X amount of dollars. Team feels they're worth X amount of dollars, and chances are they meet in the middle just to kind of be like, keep everybody happy. But you have to look at it. If you're drafted at 23 years old, coming out of college, you could spend 5 years in the minors, so you don't get called up till you're 28. You're going to be under team control until you're 31. So by that time, who's going to give you that 9 or 10 year contract for $150, $200 million? Nobody, because you're already 31. The players want to basically kind of go with the same format that the NFL and the NBA do, where you get drafted, you sign a 4-year rookie level contract. You have that 5th year option, which the NBA and the NFL do, but baseball would use that 5th year option as their arbitration process. But then after that 5th year, you're free to go. Baseball wants to go to that because they're getting sick and tired of, I'm going to use Chris Bryant as the most recent example.
And that honestly is the most perfect example.
The Cubs held Chris Bryant in the minors for 10 days to get an extra year of control on him, knowing that he was going to play a total of 3 games in the minors that year. But they had to keep him down in the minor leagues for 10 days to get that 8th year of control with him. And players are getting sick of that at that point, because by the time he's going to be he's 29 right now. I don't know, he's 30 now. He's 30 years old right now. And this is the first time that he can hit free agency. Nobody's going to give him a 7-8 year contract anymore because he's 30. Had this been 2 years ago, he would have got that 7-8 year contract. The players want that opportunity to cash in and get that big 9-10 year deal with 8 years of team control. Not many people are going to get that. And if the owners would agree to it and say, fine, you want the whole arbitration process to go away and be a free agent after a year, it would have been done, and then we would have had baseball right now. 100%. That's all the players want. The players don't care what the owners say at this point. That's the only thing the players want the owners to agree on. If the players present 10 other ideas and the owners turn down the other 9, they don't care. If the owners agree to this arbitration, they'll be like, okay, fine, let's sign and let's go. That's you
have some players that if they're in one spot 8 or 9 years like that, that might be the only contract they get. They might not even be
because and it's funny because we were talking about this, and Dustin, I think it was you that brought it up. There are some rookies who are old.
Look at Patrick Wisdom on the Cubs. He was a 30-year-old rookie last year because he was in the
not
minor
only
leagues for
him,
7
what's
years.
his name? He's on the White Sox. He
Yeah,
hit a home run with
your main Mercedes.
Yeah, Yermain Mercedes. Yeah, he's like what 28, 27,
28-year-old rookie last year.
and he's a
He
rookie.
Mhm.
He's a rookie. So to your point, Chris, this basically is going to be the only contract he gets.
And he still has 2 more years of control with the White Sox yet.
Like, you know what I mean? So 30, 31, he hits free agency, and now what?
You get a 4-year deal. Okay, that's it.
Which
You're
is
not
not
getting your
and the
7-year
thing what
deal.
people don't understand, those 4-year deals, more times than not, are just cheap deals that they underpay you severely.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like honestly, like I think it was Max Scherzer who got like a 3-year, what was it, 120?
And it's not like these guys are making. It's not like they're making a whole lot in the minor leagues either. So if you're in the minor, you're stuck in the minor leagues for 5-6 years. You didn't make nothing. So you're already making a little bit for a few years there. And if you
go to YouTube and you type in Cole Roederer, he's one of the Chicago Cubs like top 15 prospects. He has a story on YouTube of what life has been like for him in the minors. Basically, he was drafted as I think a 2nd-round talent. He's supposed to be like a legitimately good like prospect. His rookie year, he made $15,000 in the minors. He basically said that he had to take on 3 jobs once baseball ended to make ends meet. Didn't even have an apartment. He had to sleep in his car everywhere he went. And that just shows you like what players go through in the minors, and that shows you that the minor leagues is supposed to be the feeder program for Major League Baseball. But yet Major League Baseball could care less about how they treat their minor league players just because they don't care, because they don't bring in the same kind of money, which is why they finally agreed to raise minor league salaries. They finally agreed that they would have to provide substantial living conditions for the minor league players, which kudos to them, but this is like 30 years overdue. Yeah. And now you see the position that they're in. Now they're dealing with the major league players that are just basically saying, you've treated us like crap for so long, and you've reaped in the rewards and you've reaped in the financial benefits of it. Now it's our turn basically to treat you like crap, where if you don't give us the one thing that we want, we're going to make sure that you don't get paid this year because you still have to pay us.
And the owners made it harder on the players in the past to stand together because of the way the minor league players were treated. Because your younger players, they would be ready to go back because they didn't have a choice because they needed the money.
Yep.
I don't know. It's at this point, I'll be honest, it sucks that they're doing all this stuff, too late. But like Dustin said, the elephant in the room, based on like the reports and whatnot, the owners are almost, every time the players bring it up, they ignore it.
It's not
like they don't address it. Like they
try to offer to give them something else.
It's not even an elephant in the room at this point. The owners know that
it is the room.
If they agree to what the players want, that's basically the end of them controlling a player for as long as they want. And that's not what they want. They want to be able to control this player as long as they want. They want to be able to basically dictate how they can treat this player for 8 years. And they know that once they give that up, they're never going to get it back.
Not never.
And that's why they're being so stubborn with it, because they're like, well, if we give this up now, we're never getting it back.
And it's like every time they go up to them, they go, like, the players go, all right, cool, so arbitration. And this is what the owners do every time. So minor leaguers, every time. That's what it is every single time.
Did you see the thing with Tony Clark the other day?
Which I think I saw a few.
Well, during, I think it was last Saturday's meeting when Rob Manfred said that they had like a really good proposal to bring forth. Tony Clark's like, if it was a really good proposal, why was an arbitration? And Rob Manfred said, I thought we discussed this already. And Tony Clark's like, no, nope. We discussed it.
You guys didn't do and that's how every time it's arbitration, like they always, and Rob Manfred, I don't know what at this point, I don't want to say get rid of him, but get rid of him. Look,
Theo Epstein needs to be the commissioner.
To be honest,
that's why
maybe it's just me. I feel like if Theo was commissioner, this would be happening. I feel like he would have been like, you know what? Whatever.
If Theo was a commissioner, he would literally say, what do you guys want? He would look at everything the players bring to the table, and he would be like, good. Okay, fine. Because he's smart enough to realize that regardless of what the players want, baseball's still going to make money off of it. He's not an idiot.
And that's the point. Like, that's the part that blows my mind. Like, the owners are acting like if they give up the control, then they're gonna be broke and they're not gonna have money. I'm like, dog, you guys are making a stupid, like, up a donk zillion dollars. Like you guys are not gonna fall on hard times. I promise you.
Well, here's the other thing that the owners don't realize too. So now that you get rid of arbitration and you only have a player for 5 years, that literally gives every team a chance to get a Mike Trout. Every team a chance to get Shohei. Every team a chance to get Carlos Correa because they don't have to wait 8 years for them to hit free agency. They have to wait 5 years. Then Max Scherzer, if Max Scherzer was like on his rookie deal, instead of waiting 8 years to have a crack at him when you might be rebuilding at that point, you have a shot at him now in year 4 or year 5, which could change the outlook of your franchise, which the owners don't get that. Like, you get rid of the arbitration. Yes, you're getting rid of one of your star players sooner, but you have a chance to get 30 or 40 more star players to bring them back to you for longer.
You're also giving yourself more flexibility.
Yeah.
Way more. And the part that really blows my mind with it is like where the owners are messing up, they're pretending like every player in the league is Max Scherzer. Every player is a Carlos Correa, a Javier Baez, like a Mike Trout, a Mookie Betts. You're not handing out $400 million contracts to a guy like me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, not everybody in MLB is getting a $400 million contract.
Yeah, like, come on, like,
unless they're gonna Bobby Bonilla you.
I mean, yeah, but honestly, that was just the Mets being desperate. But that's a story for another day. But like, in my for me, like when I look at the whole situation, it's like, dude, not every guy is going to get but like they're not gonna own part of your franchise. That's just not how it works. You know what I mean? Like, because for every guy you have that's expected to make top money, like for instance, for like the Red Sox, for every like we have like what 2 guys we desperately have to pay. That's Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers, right?
Yep.
For those 2 guys like that, we got a Christian Vasquez. Solid, but we're not breaking the bank for him. For every pitcher you have like Chris Sale, you have somebody who, even though he left, an Erod.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for every guy you have, there's going to be another guy that's making not great money because he's just a solid player. He's just a solid guy you have on your bench. So I don't know. It's just like I feel like the the owners are looking at it from the wrong perspective. They just feel like, oh, if we end arbitration, arbitration, that just means everyone's gonna get top money. And it's like, well, no, because you morons still sign the checks.
And the funny thing is, arbitration never benefits the players.
Never.
There was 94 players that that actually filed for arbitration last year. And of those 94 players, only 1 player won his case, and that was Ian Happ of the Chicago Cubs.
Yep.
He said he was worth $4.3 million. The Cubs said he was worth like $3.5. So he went to arbitration. He got his 4.3. Otherwise, if a player says they're worth like 6, and the team says you're worth 3.5, and the player goes to arbitration, chances are they're getting 4. Like, they're never going. So it's always a lose-lose for the player.
It really is.
And if there was no arbitration, it even makes it better for everybody because there's no salary cap or anything in baseball. So when them guys are coming up every 4 or 5 years, that's the thing I understand about the owners.
And it can help a team too because
the minimum. There's not a minimum.
What you said too, it can help a team too because every year in arbitration you go up in money. Yep. So let's just say, for example, you bring Chris Bryant back into the equation because I know what he was making like every year that he hit arbitration. Those final 3 years of arbitration, Cubs had to pay him $57 million because he averaged to get like $15 to $16 million a year, and then he ended up getting 19 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say he would have gotten hurt and basically could never play again. You just tied $57 million into a guy the last 3 years when you could have cut him, or not necessarily cut him, but when you could have let him walk 3 years earlier, saved yourself that $57 million and put it elsewhere.
Yeah. I just find it funny how they did all that with Chris Bryant just to still trade him to San Francisco anyway. I just love the ending of that story so much. Like, I just love it so much. It's like, you know, they did all that and then still lost him. Like, what a time to be alive.
And honestly, the Cubs deserved it because of, I mean, as much as I wanted him to be in Chicago like longer, obviously, They could have just given him a 7 or 8 year extension right after that rookie year deal ended. Just screw the whole arbitration process. Just be like, fine, your rookie contract's up. We know you're hitting arbitration. Let's just give you a 7-year, $200 million extension right now. You still have your 2 years of arbitration that you're going to have tied to that. So technically, you're really going to get like a 9-year contract of about $240. So they could have just been done with it right there. He could have got his $30 million a year and everyone would have been happy. But no, they had to basically dick him around and not really give him anywhere close to what he should have gotten.
It's just, I don't know, man. It's just, like I said, dog, these owners are weird, man. They're weird because it's almost as if they think if arbitration is gone, then the players sign their own contracts or in terms of offer themselves their own contracts. And it's like, nah, you still got the control. The only thing is, it's just a timeline. So instead of winning 8, it's better for 5, which, again, is better if we're going to be honest. Because now if you put a guy, like, think about it. More times than not, when you put a guy through arbitration, he walks. Arbitration is just a longer version of franchise tagging somebody. And let me know the last time a franchise tag worked great for both sides.
And how many of these players sign these 9-10-year deals that never make it to 9 or 10 years on these contracts, and it's already full and you're getting paid.
Look at Ronald Acuna. Ronald Acuna signed a 10-year, $100 million contract extension. But he did that in the second or third year of his contract. So the Braves basically just said, screw the arbitration. We'll just give you this 10-year extension now, and if you want to rework it, we'll rework it for you.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
But at least he's getting his 10-year deal up front where, yes, he's not getting paid a ton because he's worth more than $10 million, but 5 years into that deal, he can restructure it if he wants to and then basically sign another $70, $80 million on top of it.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it top heavy? So like he basically gets a majority of that money.
Yeah, he gets like beginning of his contract. He gets like $70 million the first 5 years or whatever.
Yeah. So he can do that, and then he's sacrificing 30, which sacrificing because he can end up quadrupling it easily.
Because at 5 years he'll be 28. You could just be like, let's just sign another 7-year, $170 million extension.
Exactly. So if he just trades in that 30, he can get way more easily. So it puts him. Honestly, the Braves handled that situation perfectly.
Same with Tatis too.
Now that you miss arbitration, guess what? He's now more inclined to stay.
Same with Tatis too. When they gave him that $14 million deal, it's basically, we don't need to rework your contract. We'll just hand you the stinking checkbook and say, here you go. Just be set for life the next $34 million a year.
Yep. Speaking of baseball, I don't know if y'all heard. This happened a little bit ago. Free Trevor Bauer. Yeah, I said it. The federal charges have been dropped. The Pasadena police tried to investigate, and this is how the conversation went. It was hilarious. They had a conversation with Trevor Bauer. Was like, hey, Trevor, so do you want to admit it? And he's like, nah. They were like, are you sure about that? And he's like, yep. They were like, well, we kind of need you to admit it because we have no evidence. And as soon as that, Trevor Bauer was like, have a nice day. He put up on his YouTube channel, and he listen, love him or hate him,
I love him.
He straight up told the truth. He said, look, this is what happened. He left no details out. And bro, I was like, oh my God, bro. I was like, I mean, the only thing you forgot to tell us what color underwear you had, bro. Like,
which I've checked his Instagram. He probably did that anyways.
Probably.
Or he just wore the underwear that he wore that night and been like, "This is what I wore."
He might have had out one of his vlogs on YouTube, on his YouTube channel.
One of the vlogs is like an actual him recording himself doing it. Like, yeah. But it took about, I think, like 5 months, but the charges got dropped. However, the MLB can still suspend him. They do have that right. Now, I do not see a world where they do that, where they actually suspend him. Because if you remember, the MLB said that the punishment would be depending on the official investigation of the police. So if they found him guilty, that's when things would go down. However, Mr. Manfred is a moron, so he's probably going to suspend Trevor Bauer.
Why was he suspended last year? Then is my question.
That's what I was
Trevor
getting ready
Bauer?
to say.
Yeah.
Well,
If they wanted to wait until the investigation.
Well, they said so. So if I understand this correctly, the reason they suspended him was because it was an investigation and they didn't know. So they suspended him without pay. But what happened was that money was basically put in an escrow account. So if he lost and was guilty, he lost all that money.
No, he doesn't get that money anymore because they put him on the commissioner exempt list.
No, but that's what I'm saying. They put it on escrow because oh my God, oh my Lord. I think it was Jeff Passons. He tweeted it and he actually broke it down that like how weird his thing is. Usually when you're on the commissioner exempt list, you get no guap. You get zero. You lose it all. It was something with Trevor Bauer.
I think he just gets a signing bonus. I don't think he gets the money.
Matter of fact, let me double check.
I thought it was just that he just gets a signing bonus. I didn't think he got the money for the games that he missed. But typically when you go on the commissioner exempt list, you get absolutely nothing. But I think he still at least gets his signing bonus, which still is like, what, 24 million out of his 40 million?
I think that they suspended him last year basically just to try to save face with their fans. They didn't want the backlash of him coming back and dealing with that.
It's going to be a lose-lose situation for him this year, though.
Yep.
Because does he want to go back to Los Angeles now, knowing that?
Bro, they did not like him. They didn't rock with him.
Why would they sign him?
Well, no, but the thing is that they didn't like him before this.
Yeah, but that's why I don't understand why they gave him the 3-year, $90 million contract if they didn't like him.
Yeah, they should just love him or hate him. My Cincinnati Reds, and I'd have been cool with it and moved on.
I think it's a lose-lose situation for Bauer just because I don't think he wants to go back to LA after this, just because he basically made it clear that he didn't do anything, and LA, I'm not going to say LA didn't back them, but they really didn't do a lot to show they believed him. They kind of just went along with what Manfred said and been like, okay, fine, we'll suspend you and go from there. And then once he was suspended, they kind of let Manfred just take over from there and let him get put on the commissioner exempt list. But at the same time, let's just say he wants out of LA. Who's going to trade for him for that contract? Or who's going to trade for him knowing the drama that he can sometimes bring with him?
I'm reading right here. It said Bauer spent the final 81 games of the 2021 season on administrative leave, during which he was paid, but was not allowed to be with the team.
Yep. Yeah. I literally just had it up. It said, I literally just had the actual tweet from him too, from Jeff Passons. Because when it comes to that type of stuff, him and then the other one, the dude with the bow tie, Ken Rosenthal, those two dudes, they not only do they know the stuff, but they break it down to like the simplest. Like they'll pull it and they put it up in baseball language, and then if you didn't understand, they break it down mad easily. So because he when he got so what you're thinking about, Dustin, when he got suspended, like when he actually got suspended, the signing bonus, it was already out. Yeah, so here it is. He signed a 3-year, $102 million free agent contract in February. It includes a $10 million signing bonus that already has been paid out in 2 installments, $8 million in salary paid during the regular season, and a $20 million lump sum deferral due November 30th. If a suspension drops before that payment, the Dodgers could conceivably withhold it, but Bauer would challenge and argue that the money owed him was for time on administrative leave, during which he was paid like an active player.
So technically, he didn't get that $20 million then because the suspension wasn't dropped until after November 30th.
Yeah, well, yeah. If they did it before, then it'd be that 20. But again, he can feel like at that time he could have actually kind of been like, "Hold on, timeout. Even though I'm on administrative leave, I'm still getting paid like I'm an active player." So, but yeah, like they paid like he was considered paid, but they put it in like an escrow account because if he was guilty, then the suspension would have been without pay.
Yeah.
However, since he's not, they just basically gave him all that money. I think they gave it to him like a day or two after they drop the thing, the federal thing, because I think at this point the Dodgers kind of just want to wash their hands and just be like, look, you go your way, we go our way. I just think it's weird. Where does he go from here? Because there's going to be a bad stigma around him. Not just him being mean, but with all this stuff that happened, Dustin, do you think that he ever pitches again?
That's going to be the big question. Like, he's obviously one of the top 5 pitchers in Major League Baseball when he's right. But when he's wrong, he's an average pitcher at best. And we saw that for a couple of years in Cleveland where he always showed that he had the stuff, but he just never – I'm not going to call him a head case because pitchers are a mental animal where if something gets in your head, you get in your own head and you can't get out of your head. So, like, he always had, like, the stuff in Cleveland, and he always showed that he had the stuff. But it wasn't until after that 2016 World Series loss that he kind of started to show everybody the type of pitcher he was.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing with him at this point is he still has 2 years left on the Dodger contract.
Yes.
Do the Dodgers want to keep him there, knowing basically that they had to pay him basically to not even pitch half the season last year? Does he want to be there knowing how the Dodgers kind of really didn't seem like they backed him on anything? And let's just say he demands a trade. Who's going to take on that contract? Who's going to give up the pieces that they're going to have to give up to get him, knowing that he's going to be on the wrong side of 30 when they make this trade? And honestly,
and he still could get suspended.
Honestly, I mean, as good as he is, he brings a lot of attention to himself. And does a team want that added attention brought to their organization when there's enough attention in Major League Baseball as it is with the lockout and all this other stuff? So it's like a lose-lose situation for him at this point, just because he has that reputation of the bad boy. He has the reputation of bringing all this attention to himself. Who's going to want to take on that salary? Who's going to want to take on the attention that he brings with him? And like Chris said, there could be a chance that he does still get suspended if evidence comes out later on. Who's going to want to take that risk and invest all this in him, knowing that there still is a possibility that he might be guilty just once more evidence gets into the fold?
Yeah, and it's what's weird about the whole Trevor Bauer thing. So, like you said, it's 2 years left, right? The problem with him is, and by the way, yes, he still gets paid. All current contracts still get paid. I think the payment goes on as normal. I don't think that the players who signed the contract prior to the lockout, even if it was this offseason or years before, as long as it's still on a current contract, they get paid as normal. The only thing that stopped is like physical baseball activities. I think that's the only thing that stops. But with Trevor Bauer, I mean, if I'm Trevor Bauer, this year, I don't speak. I don't. I know.
But don't what you're saying. Like. That's not going to happen.
I know, but I'm just saying what I would do if I was him. Okay, that's like telling a fish, to not swim. I get it, but
you know what I do if I'm Trevor Bauer?
You said what?
You know what I do if I'm Trevor Bauer?
What do you do? Let me hear it.
I speak, but I don't speak. I take a baseball and I write "F-U" on the baseball, and I throw it. Then at the end of every inning, I toss it to the umpire. The next inning I come out, I write something else on the baseball, I throw it, and I toss it to the umpire since they want to check all the baseballs for all this sticky stuff and all this stuff.
Yeah, just but it's write little
no, but write little notes on it. He can send all these balls back to the commissioner. They're gonna have little paper trails.
You can't do that. You actually can't write on the There's like a specific rule where, believe it or not, if you write a cute little note like that, it's actually considered defacing.
Or just write it on your hat. So when they check your hat, you got these little notes.
No. You know what he needs? You want to know what he needs? You know how sometimes the pitchers, they take their hat off and they got like the notes inside their hat or whatever. He needs to have another one in the back of his head and then like every time he's done, just get it, and then goes, "Oh, you want to check it? Here you go," and then just place it at the top of his cap, just like tape it or something. So when he hands it to them, it's like "F you," and he's just like,
or just shave it in the back of his head, so when they take off his hat, it's
That
right,
way they can't
it's
do
right on the
nothing.
camera.
"Yeah." That way they literally can't do that. Ron, how you feeling, my guy?
I'm all right. How y'all doing, fellas?
Ron, are you
doing
about to go
good,
play?
bro.
Are you about to go play tennis in Alaska? It looks like you're about to hop on the tennis court.
Oh, I got it right. Look, man. Look, Trevor Bauer's in a weird place right now. He really is. He's in a situation where
He never should have left Cincinnati. Realistically, he never should have left
Nope.
Cincinnati.
Came off one of the best years of his career.
Granted,
I
it
know
was
a
the
short
granted it
season.
was the shortened season, but he still even if
That's
this
what I'm
still
saying.
even if this still would have came out, Cincinnati's not Los Angeles. This would have been.
but Trevor Bauer's still Trevor Bauer.
I understand that, but
No
it's-
matter where
I don't.
you
I
don't
think it
it'd
would have
be
been
that
the.
bad?
I don't.
For
It would
the
be.
media?
It would be bad. I just don't think it would be as bad because the media in Cincinnati is not the media in LA. LA is the center of
disagree.
attention all the time.
I disagree. And the only reason I say that is because Trevor Bauer's Trevor Bauer. Yeah, I mean, like think about it. When he was with, before, right, in Cincinnati, he was still kind of making headlines before Trevor Bauer really was
Yeah.
Trevor Bauer. You know what I mean? So, like, that's kind of why I believe, I don't think it mattered that he was
I
in
guess-
LA, but
I guess compared to like the Kobe Bryant, Ben Roethlisberger situation, they both got accused of raping women, but who was the one that kind of took the most heat from it? Kobe Bryant, because he was in LA. And he actually did a lot less than what Ben Roethlisberger did. But because Ben Roethlisberger's in Pittsburgh and the media isn't the center of attention in Pittsburgh, it's not the main focal point. Yes, it's there because people knew it happened, but it's not Los Angeles. That's why I still think like it still would have been there and it still would have been over Bauer's head. But it's not Los Angeles, so it's not going to be like the center focus like it was last year if he stayed.
yeah, I mean,
And I was reading here, if he does get suspended, it could go retroactive, and the last year's games would count toward it.
oh, I don't think they would do that. No,
That's what-
I don't think.
That's what it's saying in this ESPN article.
Yeah.
Oh, so it would have to be retroactive then.
That's why they
I thought you said they
That's
would have
what
the
those
choice.
unions-
That's why they haven't paid him out that $20 million, because if he ends up getting suspended, they don't have to give it to him, and it goes back to the Dodgers, and they get to keep it. That's why they can't. That's why he really can't go after that money at this point, because at any point, if he's suspended, all that money that was given to him goes back to the Dodgers. That's why they can kind of keep this $20 million as just kind of their insurance policy at this point.
I think, for me, I just if I'm Trevor Bauer, I try to get. I get out of LA.
I just want to see him throw a ball 480 feet over center field again.
Oh my God, just like how it was. So Ron, Trevor Bauer, federal charges got dropped. MLB can still suspend him if they so wish. First of all, do you think he ever will pitch again? And if he does, do you think it's with LA or with another team?
Wow. That's complicated. It's a lot. Just the fact that his federal charges got dropped. So I'm catching up on the situation. What was his crime? I know we're talking about rape and everything.
Yeah, supposedly he sodomized.
Supposedly he had sexual relations with a woman, and the woman claimed that it was too rough and that she didn't want it to be as rough as it did. And then Trevor Bauer says they talked about it ahead of time, and she said she liked it rough, but she didn't really clarify how rough she liked it. And Bauer kind of, I'm not going to say kicked the crap out of her, but Bauer did leave marks on her just because I guarantee you he's probably 100, 150 pounds more than what this lady was. So, I mean, there's a fine line as to, like, what did she mean by rough sex and how rough was Bauer during their sexual relations. That's kind of why it's a sticky subject.
Yeah. And real quick, because someone says, how is this any different from Watson? If you have to ask that question,
One woman
that
is
just
not
shows
30.
you don't know what you're talking about.
One woman's not 30. Just saying.
Well, I mean, it literally it's as different as you can possibly get.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with Deshaun, it's like what 20 plus.
And at least with Trevor Bauer, there is proof that the two of them talked
had
about
conversation. There's text messages.
Yeah, and Watson had no conversations with these people.
Right.
It's just like, I'm an athlete. I'm here. You do what I tell you.
Not only that, like with Watson, there's so many question marks. With Trevor Bauer, there's literally no question about it whatsoever. The evidence is lined up, and the only way you can say, in any way, shape, or form, in any realm of reality, you can even try to make any inkling or any.
The only thing that he realistically should get charged for is assault. That's really the only thing that you can hold against him. Yeah, just because.
Nah. Free Trevor Bauer.
I agree. I don't think he's guilty for the charges that he was accused of, just because of the text messages and the proof was there that they talked about it. But even if she says she likes it rough like she said she did, Bauer still got to be smart enough to know what is too rough. Like, but you're a human being.
Nope, that's not.
Wow.
See, but that's not the responsibility of Trevor Bauer.
Oh, I know, but he's.
You know what I mean? That's her, because if he goes, hey, how rough is rough? You know what I mean? Being
an athlete, though, you should at least know better, knowing that if you did leave marks, you know damn well that person's coming after you. Like, that's where I'm getting at. Like, you need to be smart enough in that situation.
I get that, but we got, listen, I messed around with a few girls who wanted marks. Like, they wanted marks. Like, they got some weird thrill off that. Like, I don't know what it was, man. I ain't asking, ain't no nothing, dog. It was like, hey, yo, you want it? I kept it. Like, listen, bro, I'm still enjoying myself. You know what I mean? But like, yeah. So like, when someone tells me where Trevor Bauer went wrong, if she said, I like it rough, and he says, how rough, and she just says, just be rough. If Shorty ain't drawing no lines, Trevor Bauer should have been like, all right, coach, I'm out. I'm out of here.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because Ron, if Shorty tells you, yo, Ron, I want you to
that stuff don't happen up there in Alaska, Ron. It's too cold.
But Ron, think about it though. If Shorty was like, hey, yo, be rough with me, and you're like, what do you want? And she just says, hey, yo, just F me up. Ron, you like, all right, bet, I guess I'll punch you. I'll give you a black eye, whatever. I mean, you're just telling me to F you up. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, like, I didn't know we was out here on our 3 shades of gray. Free Trevor Bauer.
Yeah, nah, and that's why I get people get mad at me when I say this all the time. This is why I feel bad for Trevor Bauer. Because I'm gonna tell you this right now. If it was any other pitcher, if it was Clayton Kershaw, no one cares.
There's only two pitchers in baseball that they would care about if they did this.
Really?
And the other pitcher played for the Dodgers last year also.
Max Scherzer?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Just because we talked about it yesterday on the show, and just how Max Scherzer always was when he was pitching, where he kind of didn't really talk to people and he was just kind of in his own. He's exactly what Trevor Bauer is. He just doesn't express it. Like, Trevor Bauer has like no problems like running his mouth on Twitter and like doing the stuff he does. Max Scherzer just kind of keeps that all built up, because when he pitches angry. Like, he takes whatever anger is in his life and he just brings it to everything for 7 innings, and then once he's done pitching, he's like happy-go-lucky. Like, if Max Scherzer did this, I think he would get the same kind of heat, because you know how angry he would be if people were accusing of him this? He would just come out there and just start throwing BBs.
Nah, I don't think so. And the only reason I think that is just because who is one of the most hated pitchers, if not the most hated pitcher in baseball right now?
Bauer.
Before this allegations, who was one of the most hated, if not the most hated pitcher in baseball? Trevor Bauer. Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like the reason a lot of people kind of was coming at him from the left was just the fact that we already hate you. I'm just talking about as the consensus of the MLB fans. We already hate you. You already come across as, rude and mean and all that stuff. So
I didn't know we hated Trevor Bauer like this.
Bro, but a lot of people hate Trevor Bauer. I don't hate him. I just dislike some of the stuff that he talks about. Because every time he does something wrong, like, and again, if I'm wrong, please
correct you, but you're educating me. I feel like I'm 100% sure he does play again, though. Back to the original question.
What was I gonna say?
You're telling me how much we hate Trevor Bauer.
Right, got it. You got it, coach. Appreciate it. The only time he ever showed any type of acceptability or accountability upon himself that everyone kind of agrees on, the only time was when he was in Cleveland and he was having a horrible game, and he flung the ball over the center field wall when Terry Francona was going to come and pull him out. And immediately he apologized to Terry Francona. He was like, my bad, Skip. He goes, get in the dugout. I'm going to beat the mess out you when I get over there. Like, that really was the only time. Well, at least that's the general consensus among a lot of people. That was the only time he ever really took any type of accountability, like any accountability for himself. Then he went on the whole, hey, I cheat too. Look how I cheat. Like,
wow.
When he went on that whole tirade, a lot of people looked at him different. Because then people started questioning, hold on, that year you had, like that last year you had that got you this money, were you cheating? Like, were you? And he was just out about it, and a lot of people just didn't like that. A lot of people, I'll be honest, I didn't like it. I did it, but I mean, at the bare minimum, at least he's telling everybody. At the bare minimum, I mean, it's still cheating, and I don't like it, but at least he's not what's homeboy's name? He was on the Yankees. He's mad dumb. He was playing against the Red Sox, and they noticed he had pine tar on him. This was back when we had John Farrell, and they noticed it and they were like, nah, we're bugging. And then after the game, they rewatched the tape and saw that he had pine tar. Michael Pineda, that's who it is. Michael Pineda.
Yeah.
Like, and then he came back out the next game he played against the Red Sox, and he just smeared it on his neck. Like, he's like right here, and then he just kept going to it, like mad obvious. Like you know how usually when you cheat, you're just like, all right, let me stretch a little bit. My guy was just like right there, and I'm just like, I remember I saw it in the first inning, and he did it, and I was like, discretion, my boy. Like, you're gonna get caught. And I'm a Red Sox fan, right? But like when I just see him, like not even trying to hide it. Every time he gets a strike, he looks and he just goes like this, looking to the umpire, and I'm just like, what did he just do? Like,
well, the year they got Bauer all that money was when he was in Cincinnati, and that year his fastball was up 4 or 5 miles per hour. His spin rate was up.
Yeah, they did a thing.
Don't get me wrong. I was a Bauer fan, especially you were in Cincinnati, and he had like a 1.00 ERA that year.
Yeah, but my thing, look, like I said, man, I like Trevor Bauer. It sucks that but like I said, at least he's admitting it. At least he's admitting it. Like he's keeping
a lot of fans don't like him.
This is what I do.
I think a lot of fans don't like him because he's a pitcher, and he's one of the only pitchers that you hear about, and that's kind of polarizing and talk. Most pitchers kind of stay out of the
limelight. Yeah, a lot of them just want to pitch. You know what I mean? Like, and if they're in the limelight, they're a Justin Verlander. They're a great guy. You like talking to him. He's funny. It's interesting to have conversations with him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're in the limelight, you're one of them. And then if you're not a fan, then, or if they're not a fan of the limelight, guess what? He kind of just, these pitches kind of go over to the, like CC Sabathia. If he didn't want to talk, he wouldn't talk. Like, he knew, I'm about to disrespect somebody today. And he would just go off in his corner and he just wouldn't talk. Right? And when he would talk, everyone loved talking to him. They liked having conversation with him. They were like, hey, what's up, C's? And he's like, hey, yo, what's up? Like, hear that conversation. A lot of pitchers, like, if the pitchers like the limelight, that's how they are. Trevor Bauer just doesn't care. And I think that's what kind of rubs people a lot too, because Whether you like him or hate him, he's gonna say what he wants to say, regardless if it's a popular opinion or not. He's gonna speak what's on his mind, and what people can't stand about it is just the fact that he's consistent with it. He'll say something stupid, but guess what? This is what I believe. This is how I feel. This is what I'm thinking, and this is how I feel, and I'm gonna keep it a buck. And if y'all don't like it, I'm sorry that y'all don't like it, but it is what it is, and a lot of people don't like that. They really, really don't, bro. But moving on, last topic in terms of the MLB. This is gonna be a quick one, Chris. I want to throw this to you first. Matter of fact, Ron, I want to throw this to you, bro, because
let's go.
Funny. So during the lockout, the MLB is not gonna be testing for steroids. Isn't it funny? And I said this before the show too. Isn't it funny that they're letting steroids pass when that was their main problem with Barry Bonds?
Let Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame.
So Barry, yeah, we can't do that because Barry he tainted the sport.
You just kept Barry and Roger Clemens and all these guys out of the
it's a joke
because of
like listen, Barry Bonds, he's not good. He did drugs. He's disgusting. He's a horrible player. Oh, hey Baez, you need help injecting yourself? I got you. What are we doing here?
Right.
What are we doing here?
They're getting ready. They're getting ready for the season lockout. That's what steroids saved them last time. They think steroids will save them this time after the lockout.
They're like, listen.
Home runs are going up, baby.
I'm gonna tell you this right now. I'm gonna tell you this right now, bro. If I see anybody get like, what's Barry Bonds' record? What was it, 53?
Sound about
Is that
right.
his home run record? The single season home run record?
I thought it was like 57.
No, didn't he get? He got more than 61, didn't he? Because he beat Maris's record, if I remember correctly.
I'm gonna tell you right now. Because I want to look it up. Oh, 73. Oh my god!
I knew it was more than 61 because that was the record.
So 73. If anybody gets 50 home runs, I need this whole thing drug tested. Everyone and their mother's getting drug tested right now. We're drug testing him. Matter of fact, you know who else we're drug tested? I don't give a shit. You Darvish. He sucks at the plate. We're drug testing him too. Listen, I made this joke. I saw Bartolo Colon hit his first home run, and I made jokes. Big Sexy got to get drug tested. I'm telling you this right now. You Darvish gets a home run, we're drug testing this whole league. I swear to God.
Did you just say you wanted to drug test somebody that got over 50 home runs?
Yes.
You can leave Vladimir Guerrero out of the equation because that is just a massive human being.
No, we're drug testing him. And the thing is, he's not really that big. It's the drugs.
He's 280 pounds and he's fat.
Yeah, he's 280 pounds, and guess what? 60 pounds of it is steroids.
I think 60 pounds of it is the
Is that how it works? Is that how steroids work?
Yeah. I think 60 pounds of it's the big match that he ate.
Yo!
Have you ever seen what the bat looks like in his hand? It looks like a freaking toothpick.
And then he chokes up on it.
And
like, what are you doing, bro? Like, it already looks small. And he goes, okay. And I'm just like, wait a minute. He does the same thing his dad used to do. Because his dad, like, he loved to choke up on the bat. And it was so weird. The only time he ever would, like, hold it normally was when he always do those weird, every time the ball would bounce and he would somehow magically get a single. God knows how he did it. Because every time it's anybody else, the ball never hits that sweet spot. For his pops, it hit that sweet spot every time. And he was getting a single. And it got to the point that I was like, I mean, look, if you want to walk him, just throw the ball. Like Trevor Bauer it. Just turn your back to him and just fling it over center field and just be like, all right, ball one. But they're not testing. Now, the MLB is trying
testing to save face.
Now the MLB is trying to save face. This is what they said, and this is by far, I think, in my opinion, the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Hold on, let me see. I hear this. Okay,
did it come from Rob Manfred or did it come from somebody else?
A spokesperson.
So
it was a spokesperson, but Rob Manfred, credit to him, knew what was said was so dumb that he didn't want to be caught with this.
He's like,
he refused to be caught with this. So he was like, you know what? Let somebody else say it.
I pay you $1 million to speak for me. You can take the fall on this one.
100%. All right, ready? There is no definitive answer on PED testing, yet it's unlikely that MLB will be able to test the players, right? When asked for a quote, they said, For what it's worth, players were not drug tested during the NFL and NHL lockouts. So, under the collectively bargained joint drug agreement, players are randomly tested for banned substances year round. And then he went to like another thing where it said, although we're not testing them now, when the lockout is over, we will immediately start drug testing them after. So their answer to why they're not drug testing, the NFL and the NHL didn't drug test either. So therefore, we don't have to do it either.
Well, I mean, from that side of things, it's right because you're not supposed to have any contact with anybody during the lockout.
Okay, I'm glad. I'm glad you said that, Dustin. I'm glad you said that. So why isn't Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame?
That's what I was just about to touch on.
Because baseball needs to make their mind up.
If you remember in 1994, there was a strike that ended the season before the playoffs, before anything even started. And there was a good chance that the Montreal Expos probably would have won the World Series in 94 because that team was absolutely loaded with Pedro Martinez, Vladimir Guerrero, Grudzielanek, and all those guys they had back then, and that team was dominating. And once the strike ended the season, they kind of never recovered. But what happened after that? 1998, the home run chase between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa.
The summer of love.
99, the home run chase between McGwire and Sammy Sosa. A couple years later, Barry Bonds hitting 73 home runs. If it wasn't for that 5-year run, nobody knows where baseball would be. Steroids or not, those 5 years saved baseball from their last strike that they had. And at this point, you've already alienated your fans enough over the last 2 months going through this lockout, where if it gets to the point where you're going to miss regular season games, if it gets to the point where you're going to miss the whole season, you're going to alienate not just the people that have followed baseball for the last 30 years, but you're going to alienate the younger generation that wants to play baseball in the future. So the only way to bring that back is basically to do what you did in 98. Let people do steroids, not necessarily don't care about it, but kind of just turn a blind shoulder and be like, oh, okay, and just kind of let the fans come back. And then when the fans come back, be like, can't do this no more. You got to stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they'll keep everybody in this area out of the Hall of Fame as well.
The only two that from this era that I think would be safe, regardless, is going to be Mike Trout, and then obviously like Albert Pujols, because Albert Pujols kind of came in at the end of the first steroid era and just did what he did for as long as he did it.
At this point, man.
At this point, let anybody in.
Just juice everybody up.
Because to me, the whole Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens not getting in the Hall of Fame is a travesty just because they were both going to be Hall of Famers regardless.
Regardless. Before Barry Bonds, I think it like
he was going to be a 500 guy.
Bro, before his first year up to his first year in San Francisco, before he started juicing, before he looked different, my guy already had multiple MVPs, multiple Silver Sluggers, multiple Gold Gloves. He had he had it all. If he just put his bat down and went home and said, "You know what? I'm done. It is what it is. I'm going home." If he were to do that, guess what?
He'd be in the Hall of Fame regardless.
Hall of Famer.
Same with Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens was the best pitcher since Nolan Ryan and was on pace to put up Nolan Ryan numbers up until he started to get injured at the end of his career. But he still was a 300-game winner. Still had, I think, 4,000 strikeouts. Still did what he did. Same with Barry Bonds. The guy was still going to be I think he hit like a 312 for his career. He was still a 300 hitter. He was going to have 500 homers, 500 steals, regardless if he juiced or not. And I've said this all along. Steroid use or not, what does it do for you? It makes you stronger, and it makes you recover faster from being injured. But guess what? You still have to be able to throw the baseball over the plate. So just because steroids might be able to help you throw faster, if you can't throw a strike, it ain't going to matter how many steroids you're taking anyway. So you still have to be good enough to get the ball over there. And in Barry Bonds' case, steroids will make you stronger, but you still have to be able to hit the ball. If you can't hit the ball, what's it going to do for you? It's just going to bulk you up and do nothing. You still have to be able to put the barrel of the bat on the baseball.
Like for example, bro, Clint Frazier played horrible in the Yankees this year, right?
Yeah, now he's in
Chicago. He couldn't touch the ball. Him and Brett Gardner, right? Give him steroids. What difference does it make?
He's not going to be able to hit it.
What about the perspective that you're taking the best and already elite at the game that we're trying to compete and catch up to and giving them another competitive advantage that just takes their skill to a whole nother level, and we're never going to be able to catch up. And it's just
The thing
here's
is,
my
though,
thing.
I don't really think it was a competitive advantage because I'm willing to bet that 80 to 90% of players were using back then. It's just the fact.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that
That prolific
Barry
dude got
Bonds,
to do it.
Sammy Sosa, and the ones that stood out the most were
The
the
ones
ones that
making
got
big
nailed
ones.
for it.
Right.
If we're gonna go on record and say 80 to 90% of the players were doing it, it's a travesty. That's crazy.
I really
Bro,
think it was the case though.
I
Jose,
agree. I think 80 or 90% as
Jose,
well.
Jose Canseco.
Jose Canseco named off like 80 players that he played.
He has a book. The
Yeah.
Canseco book.
Yeah.
Like he named
Wow.
them. And when he said that, the people
you
he
read
was
it?
saying, it
No.
wasn't I heard
You must
this
read.
or I think. He's talking about, bro, we got the same supplier and I'm injecting these people
yeah.
myself.
Have you read the book, Pride?
Yes.
Ron, in his book there's literally like 3 chapters and he goes through in every chapter the players that he provided drugs to, the players that took drugs when he played with them, and just the advice that he was giving people of how to cover it up so they don't get caught.
Wow.
Yes.
Like he played with so
was-
many players that used, and because it was frowned upon, but nobody gave a crap back then because not everybody, but so much of the league was doing it back then just because they were allowed to do it.
Yeah. And it got to the point, Rob, his book, when it came out to like, to punish or crucify the people who did it, bro, the Canseco book at that time was the Bible. Like the Canseco book was like, okay, this is basically the guys who we are calling guilty regardless. Like I implore anybody, if you ever get curious, read it. It is by far, it's funny because he's not trying to be funny, but I've laughed so many
It's funny
times.
because he says in the book he even like throws himself under the bus.
Yes, he
was one of the first. He said, I think in the book, if I remember right, he said he was like one of the first players that started to use it.
Yes.
And then when his teammates saw like how much better he was getting, then they kind of started to ask him like, "Hey, what are you doing to get where you are right now?" And that's kind of where the dominoes fell. Like, "Hey, well, this is what I do. This is how I get them. Listen to me, and we can get you hooked up, but not get you in trouble for it."
Yep. And it's crazy. It to me, it's just wild, man. And it's just, it makes, I don't know, man. To me, it's just.
Have you guys seen the movie Flubber with
No.
Robin Williams?
Nah.
So it's a Disney movie from like the 90s where he was like a scientist and he came up with like this stretchable rubber thing that like could change the world for science. But the stuff that he put to make this rubber, he would put on his college basketball team shoes and it would help them jump like super high and do like all these cool tricks that they couldn't do before. You mean to tell me if you couldn't do that in the NBA, players would start using it? It might be illegal, but if no one's going to say anything about it, you mean to tell me that all these players would start like helping themselves jump higher and do all this other stuff?
And at the time, what people also forget is like when all that was happening, the players had an agreement because like the players had like most of the players had the same deal. Like most of the players got their thing from the same source. And if they ran out, guess what? There was like other guys who had it. So the players had this kind of thing where it was like all hushed. And then all of a sudden, one player who probably, I don't know who it was that snitched him out, but I've always said this. I assumed the person who snitched him out was just someone who wasn't doing it and was butthurt about it.
No, I think it was somebody in the Oakland A's organization that played with both McGuire and Canseco that snitched out Canseco, but the problem was he was taking it, but he just wasn't a good baseball player, so it wasn't making it. Like he wasn't hitting home runs, and he was like a platoon player that didn't play every day, but he wasn't like going from 10 homers to like 40 home runs. He was going from like 10 homers to 15. So you would have never really guessed in his situation that he was taking it, but he wasn't getting the same kind of results that all these other players were getting. So he kind of just got fed up with it and said, you know what, screw this. I'm going to throw everybody else under the bus just because they're obviously doing something that I can't do.
They're not helping me, so nobody can use them.
Wow.
Bro, it's hilarious, bro. Yeah, I'm telling you, bro. If at any point if you're curious about it, if anything like that,
Read the book.
yeah,
Oh, I
read
just
it.
bought it. Vindicated.
Yeah,
You just bought it?
Yeah, it's the first opening paragraph gets me. It's Juice Canseco personally introduced steroids with a needle in the ass. That's how they open it up.
which is
Must
basically
read.
that was him though. That was
Well, the funny thing is, if you read that paragraph, that's
wait, was it that one or was it Juiced?
Yeah, Juice was his first one.
But if you read the thing where it says needle in the ass, that's really how he got away with it. Because
Yeah,
if you remember
they
this,
didn't check you there.
well, no, if you remember the Supreme Court hearing when like they had all like McGuire, Palmero, Sosa, and like Canseco like during the Supreme Court trial,
Yup.
Canseco admitted that like when there was like the team meeting before the game, he would take the needle out, put it on the chair that he was sitting on, and kind of just like sit down really slow enough for the needle to push in, and then kind of just like slide it onto the floor and kick it like, oh, I didn't do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like he made it so discreet that he was using it because he knew that if someone saw him stick it in his arm, well, obviously they're going to make a big deal about it. So he was putting it in places where nobody was going to see it.
Bro, it was honestly, man, it was just though. I'm gonna tell you this right now, bro. Jose Canseco just straight up, he snitched on everyone and their moms.
Wow.
And I find it funny because now he's been on record saying he regrets it. That he regrets doing it. And
I think he regrets it because I think it hurt his chances to get in the Hall of
Fame. In the Hall of Fame. Because think about it.
He would have probably got it.
Barry Bonds is way better than him, and he didn't make it. That ruins Jose Canseco's or any opportunity he would have.
1,000%.
I think that's why he regrets it.
Because I think he retired with like 470 home runs. If he could have got to that 500 homer mark, you would have had like an argument that he would have got in. Mm-hmm. But I think it's because he retired before he got to the mark that he got and then kind of did what he did, knowing that the people that he played with are now not getting in. You have no chance in hell that you're getting in.
From what I'm reading here, it was a lawyer in Sacramento named Troy Ellerman was the one that was the whistleblower about the.
I think that was the player went to him just because I think the player was like, how do I get these guys in trouble without getting myself in trouble?
And well, since he probably was dog shit, nobody cared.
He was a defensive attorney for the maker of steroids, Balco. Yep.
That's hilarious.
Jose Canseco is worse than Tekashi 6ix9ine. Who would have knew?
Nah. I think Tekashi's worse.
I don't know.
At least Jose Canseco never screamed, "I would never snitch a day in my life."
No. But here's the thing.
At least Jose Canseco never said that. If he said that, then okay, he's worse. He's worse.
If Canseco
at least he never said, "Oh yeah, I'm a gangster. I would never snitch." And then
if Canseco doesn't say what he said, do you think it would still be used? And if so, how many home runs do you think that Bonds and these players would have ended up with?
I'll be honest with you. If Jose Canseco, if he never released the book, I don't think it does anything for Barry Bonds because nobody ever believed him anyway. The Canseco book was kind of just like the nail.
No, but I'm saying like, if he doesn't snitch at all, like if he doesn't write the book, if he doesn't snitch at all, do you think Bonds gets to 900 homers? And do you think some of these like guys like Sosa and like the players that retired like in the 610, 620 range, do you think these players would have passed Hank Aaron?
Wait, when did Barry Bonds retire?
Barry Bonds retired in 2000. I want to say 6 at 763 home runs.
Because
900 home runs.
That Canseco dropped about the stuff was in 05.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. So Barry Bonds retired in 2007.
2007?
Yes.
Wow.
But 2014, Barry Bonds. Jesus Christ, 6. Where's that stupid?
I know he was the hitting coach for the Marlins for a while.
Yeah, so in 2004, Barry Bonds had 45 homers and 101 RBIs. 2005, which was the year that the book came out, Barry Bonds had 5 homers and 10 RBIs because he dealt with injuries.
Yep, he only played like 14 games, I think.
Yep, and then, 14 games, he had 5 home runs and 10 ribbies, yuck. And then 2006 and 2007, he had 28 homers, 77 RBIs, and 26 homers and 66 RBIs. So obviously, once the book came out, you could see like the decline in the numbers. Let's just say
But
that
here's
book.
the thing: was it really the book, or was it just?
I think it was the
Gary
book.
being
I think it was the
old
book
and-
because if you look at what he did from 95 to 2000, 95 to 2000, he only had one season over 40 home runs. Everything else was like 34 to 36, which are good numbers. From 2000 to 2005, he had 45 home runs or more every single year. So basically, for 5 years straight, he was hitting 45 home runs. So over a 5-year period, he had 280 home runs. So let's just say then he goes from 45 to 5 to 26 to 28. If he puts together 3 more seasons from 05 to 07 of 45, 45, 45, that's an additional 150 home runs added to his 762, which puts him at 910.
Like, I get what you're saying, but I'll be honest, I don't think
Because
even if he doesn't
get hurt in 2005, he probably hit 60 home runs that year, which puts him in the 800 range.
But I don't know, because I could also say maybe he hits 25, and you know what I mean. And that's
Even if he hits 25, he still gets in the 800 range.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think it was the book that, you know.
No, I don't think so either. But
I just think it was just the age, because when he got hurt, he was like what?
35,
40?
30? No, he was like 36. He wasn't quite 40 yet when he got hurt.
I'm talking about in 05 when he got hurt.
Yeah, he was 36 because he retired at 38, going on 39.
You said he retired at what?
I think he was 38, going on 39 when he retired. He might be older than that. Hold on.
Nah, didn't he retire in his like 40s?
Because he played, so 41 when he retired. He played 22 years, so he would have been 38, going on 39 when he got hurt.
Yeah, so like that happened, and if I'm not mistaken, he had in that whole year he had multiple knee surgeries.
Yeah, he had like 2 knee surgeries, and then he had like a back injury.
Yeah, and then it was bad because the rehab wasn't going well, which kind of let him mad, because he's like, look, man, I was supposed to,
Well, I'm wondering if that's part of him stopping the steroid use too. Was that stuff that he would have used during his rehab to speed up his recovery?
Exactly.
Because 2005 is when the book came out, and that's when those injuries started to happen. And now a guy that usually recovered within a couple weeks was now missing months at a time. You have to wonder if once that book came out, he didn't do the stuff he was doing to speed up that recovery process. That's why I honestly think he could have hit 900 home runs. I really do. Just because even if he averaged 35 home runs for an additional 3 years, you're adding 200 home runs to where he was at. Or not 200, but like 130 home runs to where he was at, which puts you in that.
Because he's at what? He's at 762 right now.
762. So if he averaged 35 home runs a year those final 3 years, you're adding 105 home runs to that total, which puts you in the 870, 880 range. So he legitimately would have had a shot at 900 home runs had he not gotten hurt at the end of his career. He
would have. Hold on, let me see. So
you made us miss out on greatness. Damn you, Canseco.
3 MVPs.
That would have been nuts.
3 MVPs. He got Rookie of the Year, 3 All-Stars, 4 Silver Sluggers, 4 Golden Gloves. His ERA, the worst ERA he had was his second year.
You mean average?
261. Oh, I'm sorry, his average. Yeah, my bad. Was 261.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at his pre-steroids stats.
Yeah,
and these are stats that I'll be honest with you, bro.
Yeah, they were still.
These are stats that I swear to God, bro. The MLB would be like sucking and like giving part ownership.
At 25 years old in 1990, he hit a 301 with 33 homers, 114 RBIs, and stole 52 bases.
People forgot Barry used to steal bases. People
52
forgot
bases
Barry
and
used
33
to be
home
a
runs.
speedster.
Yeah, he went from being a speedster to being.
He's got 5. He's got 5.
He went from the Flash to the Hulk, and he was talking about, I did it because I ate salad.
Here's even 2 more stats to throw at Barry Bonds and why he should be in regardless. The guy had 762 homers, obviously. Mm-hmm. That's number 1 all time. He was 4 RBIs away from 2,000, which I think he's second all time in RBIs behind Hank Aaron. 514 stolen bases, which puts him in the top 15 all-time in steals. He had 2,558 walks, the most walks all time. He only had 1,500 strikeouts. 1,500 strikeouts in 22 years, which averages out to be less than 70 strikeouts a season and over 120 walks in a season. So not only did he have home run power, not only did he have speed, not only could he hit for average, but the eye that he had at the plate to legitimately say, I might only get 2 pitches to swing at in this game. I am going to swing at both of them, and chances are one of those 2 is going out the ballpark.
If you're not a big baseball fan, 70 strikeouts in a season is nothing.
The year that he hit 73 home runs, he had 198 walks and 47 strikeouts.
Listen, man.
198 walks and 47 strikeouts, and he hit 73 home runs.
I'm going to end it like this, man. Buck Showalter walked a run in because he said, I didn't want the smoke. Buck Showalter said, walk him. He was like, bases loaded, walk him.
So
but if he walks, he scores, walk him. Buck Showalter said, I don't give a flying bleep. Barry Bonds turned Jeff Kent into an NL MVP. I don't want to hear it.
If you look at that year too, so 73 homers plus 198 walks comes out to what, like 270 some at bats that total.
Yeah.
And for a while, he touched at least first base.
He had 314 at bats, not counting the walks and home runs.
And what's it called? He like. I think it was that home run year. He shattered the on base record, and it wasn't even close. Like
he was on base. He was on base 357 times that year, and technically speaking, he had 290 at bats because walks don't count as at bat. So he actually was on base more than he was actually getting credited for an at bat.
It got to the point that if he came up to bat and there was anybody on base, they would just walk him.
Well, I told
that's what they did. Yeah, that's what they did. Like, if anybody, the only time they would ever pitch to him with confidence is if it was just him. Because if it's a home run, it's only one run.
Yeah. I said this to Pryor. He might have not been on the morning show. This might have been when he was on a sabbatical. But I said this on the morning show. I was at the Chicago Cubs San Francisco Giants series in San Francisco back in 2003, the year that he hit the 73 home runs. And I was at all 4 games that week because I was in San Francisco for like 10 days. Over the course of that 4-game series, Barry Bonds got to home plate 17 times. So basically 4 times a game. 1 game he had 5. Of the 17 times that he got to home plate, he had 12 walks. The other 5 at-bats, 4 homers and a double. Which meant literally when he saw a pitch to hit, he didn't miss it.
Ron, let me ask you a question, Ron. Because I'm just curious. Because I'm not a smart guy, but I'm pretty sure this will be a consensus. Let's say we're playing a sport, right?
Gotcha.
And this is an individual sport, right? When you're on a team, the team traded one of the next best batter they had behind you, right? They traded him away for spare parts, for utility guys, right? You get an average guy, they put him behind you. And because they walk you all the time, I come in and I bat up cleanup, and all of a sudden my RBIs are on the roof. You made me a journeyman. You made me a Hall of Famer.
Not only that, if Barry Bonds was still playing now, let's just say that the numbers he put up when he played, like if he was doing that now, and Jeff Kent, like you said, was behind him, Barry Bonds made Jeff Kent a 9-figure contract just because nobody was pitching. Nobody was pitching for Barry Bonds.
Jeff Kent skips arbitration.
He gets like a 7-year, $200 million deal just because teams would not pitch to Barry Bonds.
Easy. Like Rob, Jeff Kent was not. He was solid. He was solid. He wasn't anything crazy.
He was going to give you 20, maybe 25 homers and 80 RBIs, but the moment Barry Bonds shows up, you're hitting 35 home runs and driving in 120 because you're doing his dirty work.
Because they never walked him. But Ron, if anybody was at second, they would immediately walk him. They will always walk Barry Bonds because they were like, again, the only time they ever pitched to him is if the bases were empty.
Were loaded.
Because
Even
then if he hits the home run, it's only one run, so we'll be fine. That's fine.
Or if you're down by like 13 runs, or you're beating the Giants,
and then you don't care.
Runs,
at that point, you don't care. Yeah, you just don't care. Either you're down 13 or you're up 13 in a situation where you don't care.
Bases could be loaded and then give up a grand slam. Oh, we're still up 9. Who gives a crap?
Exactly. But like he gave Jeff Kent an MVP.
Jeff Kent signed a 5-year, $90 million contract after that MVP because of
literally. Let me ask you something. Imagine if LeBron James got J.R. Smith an MVP. Because that's what Barry Bonds did. That's what Barry Bonds did. I'm being serious. That's what Barry Bonds did. Mm-hmm. Barry Bonds made an average dude get an MVP.
If you look at who hit behind Barry Bonds when he was in San Francisco, Jeff Kent for 3 years, Rick Aguilar for 1 year, and that's the year that Rick Aguilar had 29 homers and 107 RBIs for a guy that could never hit more than 20 homers.
Ever.
Mike Lowell at 36 years old had 34 homers and drove in 103 RBIs hitting behind Barry Bonds. Just because nobody would pitch to Bonds and they took their chances with everybody else. But if you have guys on first and second, you have to pitch to who's after Barry Bonds.
Exactly. You have no choice. So basically whoever – and bro, you could put me back there. I'm giving you at least 25. Okay? I swing the bat like I'm Stephen Hawking. And I'm giving you 25, bro.
And the thing, even if you didn't hit home runs, you go up to the home, you're probably going to drive in 95 to 100 RBI. Any one of us on this panel.
If you want to shatter any type of RBI record, bat behind Barry Bonds. Mm-hmm. Just bat behind. That's all you got to do. It just exist and just stumble into behind Barry Bonds. Doesn't matter where he is.
It's the year that Sammy Sosa had 66 homers and drove in 148. Do you realize who hit behind him? Mickey Morandini hit behind him in the 5-hole and had 19 homers and 91 RBIs hitting behind Sammy Sosa because it got to the point where nobody wanted to serve up the ball.
Sosa.
And Mickey Morandini was what? A 270 career hitter who averaged like 8 homers a year? But he gets a 19 and drives in almost 100 runs hitting behind Sosa because he had RBI chances because nobody was going to throw to Sosa.
It's tough. It's tough being.
That's why I hate baseball now because it's all home run or strikeout, which that's what it is now. But you don't have those players that pitchers fear anymore.
No.
Like Bryce Harper at one point was the closest, but even then he didn't have anybody really behind him because they stuck Harper behind Anthony Rendon and all these other good hitters. That should have been the opposite, where you're putting him behind Harper.
I understood their logic to an extent because
when he's getting walked, though, you got a
power guy, and we just want to contact guys to get on base, and Bryce could bring them home.
Yeah, but when you start seeing Harper getting walked, you need to have Trey Turner bat leadoff. You need to put Harper second, and then go with Rendon and Juan Soto behind him, because then you're either forced to throw to Harper with Turner on base, or you have 2 guys on base and nobody out with Soto and Rendon following.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, like I just always felt like they didn't want to move Bryce because in my opinion, I always felt like the 4-hole is where you put your best hitter, right? And I always felt like I thought that Washington looked at it. If we put him to the 2, we're giving up on him. Like they looked at it with emotion instead of looking at it as, okay, you're getting walked. All right, cool. We're gonna put you at the 2, and because there were times they had Trey Turner batting 5th. I'm like, what are you doing? If Trey Turner is the epitome of a leadoff guy, like if you Google leadoff, you see Trey Turner. So there were times they had him at the 5. So, so just in case, because Trey Turner is a great contact guy. Just in case Bryce can't clean up, we'll put Trey back there.
Yeah, they're just going
right.
I'm gonna walk Bryce and I'm gonna pitch to Trey.
And the thing is, when he was at the 5 and they would pitch aggressively to Trey,
he had a good year.
Don't get it twisted. He had a good year, but you already hear the sad part about it. People still poo-poo on him. And they still say that he was horrible. Why? Because when he was at the 5th, his job was to clean up. He's not a cleanup guy, though. He's a get me on base and I go to base. He's a base path guy.
Realistically, knowing how the Dodgers think, I would not be surprised if the Dodgers moved into the 5-hole next year and try to maximize Bellinger and Mookie Betts more in the middle of the lineup and then try to get those out because Mookie Betts is going to lead off. So you're basically taking his RBI chances away from him because if he hits home run, it's 1-0.
Right.
Justin Turner is probably going to hit second because he's a great contact hitter.
Yes.
Bellinger had a terrible year last year, but can you imagine if you have Betts leading off and Justin Turner batting second? Do you want to pitch to Bellinger, or would you take your chances with Trey Turner? Trey Turner, if you
me personally, I'm going for Bellinger.
I know,
especially after the year he just had.
Yeah, a lot of us would, but most managers
I'm pushing him.
Most managers probably wouldn't. Most managers would probably take their chances.
If he had a solid year, then they're going to be in a conundrum because let's say Mookie gets a single, or let's say he gets a double, and then let's say Justin Turner gets some
him over to third
infield single,
or even grounds him over to third by just hitting it to first.
Or he grounds at third. Now you got Mookie at third. Now it's really a pick your poison situation because now you got someone on third. You got Cody Bellinger, who
can make it 2-0 with a homer or 1-0 with a sac fly, or you put two guys on and Trey Turner makes it 2-0.
Exactly. So like that'll be very interesting.
Why can't Jay McLovin be on right now so I can just nail him with the breaking news that just came in?
What happened? Educate us.
The Dallas Cowboys are having to pay 4 cheerleaders $2.4 million for a peeping Tom incident that occurred in 2016.
Oh, Ezekiel Elliott, stay out the girls' locker room.
You're a clown. You're messy. You are so messy.
It was an executive that's no longer with the team.
Oh, it was somebody's grandfather. Some old guy.
It was Jerry Jones' kid. That's why Jerry Jones hasn't given his son the team yet, because his son did this.
A $2.4 million settlement. This must have been more than
you want to know who it was? You want to know who it was? Oh yeah.
It was Jason Garrett.
On everything it was Jason Garrett, and he got caught because he started coughing. He's like, gotta go. That's what got him fired.
It was Jason Garrett. That's why his offense went downhill, because he wasn't getting his free show every day.
That's it. That's what happened. That's what happened. That's why you see him clapping like this. His gaze is going off to like.
There's a reason why Dallas was so good those 3 years under Jason Garrett, because he was getting a free show to get excited before the game, and after they took it away from him, and then he's like, "Oh crap! Now what do I do? I'm bored."
That's hilarious. But speaking of football, the Bengals have agreed with Zach Taylor, their young head coach, to a 5-year extension that will keep him as Cincinnati's head coach until 2026. I don't know how you guys feel about it. To me, it kind of perplexes me a little bit.
He deserved it, but he didn't deserve 5 years.
I was about to say I was talking to Chris about this earlier. I think I was expecting 2 to 3 years.
I wasn't even expecting that.
Wow, you're expecting a 1 year?
Yes.
You are brutal. Explain yourself now.
Look at how he was in his first year. Look at how he was in his second year. Granted, Joe Burrow did get hurt his second year. But heading into this year, Zach Taylor was on the hot seat. Any way you look at it, he was absolutely on the hot seat. And then you go to the draft, and instead of addressing the offensive line that you needed to address, you go and get Jamar Chase, which worked out in Cincinnati's favor. But Joe Burrow was still sacked more than anybody in the NFL this year by a wide margin. I think he had 71 sacks, and the next closest was like 53. He was also hit, I think, 170 or 180 times, and the next closest was like 120. So if you don't protect Joe Burrow, your franchise quarterback's not going to make it in this league much longer, because he's just going to get hammered. He already hurt his knee in the Super Bowl. Doesn't need surgery, but when he got into that knee in the fourth quarter, you could see everybody in Cincinnati like, seriously? He just got hurt now? Zach Taylor did not do a good job adjusting in the second half once the Rams started to get pressure on Cincinnati. Granted, it's not his fault because the offensive line is not that good, but I need to see Taylor do this for more than 1 year. I'm not saying he's a 1-year wonder just because they have Burrow, they have Chase, and they have all these weapons, but they need to address the offensive line. If they can do that, and then Cincinnati did what they did this year, then fine. Yes, he deserves the extension. But if you address that offensive line and don't address other areas that failed you, and then you kind of go backwards, you're going to start wondering what kind of coach he was, and if it was just one of those situations where Cincinnati was the team that got hot at the right time and basically played their way into the Super Bowl, and outside of that, they're not going to get back.
Yeah, I figured he'd get an extension, but I didn't think it'd be no 6 years. I mean, his record was what 13. I think he won 13
Yeah.
games in his first 2 seasons.
No, his first 2 seasons he won 6.
You're 6.
He
But I
was
mean,
four,
now
yeah,
right
4
now
and
he's like,
12,
what,
4 and 12, and then he went 2 and 14, and now he's
Yeah.
got the 10. So he's got 16 wins in 3 years, which
I was gonna
translates
say
to
it's like
5 wins a
16
year.
and 31 or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I agree with. I mean, I don't give him no 6-year extension. Maybe a 2-year.
Because I think he had a 4-year contract, which means next year would be his last year. I would have given him a 1-year extension to get him to that
Yeah.
5th year. Because they always say the NFL usually coaches are good for about 5 years, and then after that 5 years is kind of when you start to see either the regression or the coaches want to move on or the team just wants a different voice. So if you could have got him through that 5 years, then you could have reevaluated it to see what you wanted to do. But I just don't think he makes it through the 6 years. I really don't.
I don't think he'll make it through the 6 years either. He could be lucky to make it through the just 2 more years, like you said.
I think he'll
fix
get.
the offensive line. Joe Burrow's gonna get hurt.
I think he'll make it through. I think he'll make it through 3 years until Burrow gets off of his rookie deal. Then that's kind of when you're going to start to see, does Burrow actually want to stay around? Then they have to figure out how they're going to pay Burrow, how they're going to pay Higgins, how they're going to pay Chase, how they're going to pay Mixon. That's kind of, I think right now he's on a 3-year timeline. 6-year extension or not, I think he's on a 3-year timeline where he's going to have to maximize what he's got right now before Burrow gets an extension.
That's another reason why it's a big deal that they need to fix that offensive line this season before you get Burrow out of his rookie contract, because you're either going to be paying him a whole lot of money or he's going to be gone.
Mm-hmm. Did you hear any of that, Pride?
I heard some of it.
Because if you look at Zach Taylor's record, he's got 16 wins in 3 years.
Yeah, it's way under 500.
He's
now, I do give him a pass for last year. I think one of you guys did say that.
Yeah, he's 16 and 33 as a head coach in 3 years.
Yeah, so I do give him a pass for last year.
Yeah, last year I give him a pass because Burrow got hurt, but he was
Right.
4 and 12 in his first year. He wasn't that good. He was on the hot seat.
What did he have to work with though?
He still had pieces there. He still had Dalton, who I'm not saying Dalton's great, but he still had Dalton, who took Cincinnati to the playoffs 5 times. You still had
but it was
AJ,
an older Dalton who clearly didn't have anything left.
but you still had AJ Green. You still
who
had
again was just injury prone.
You still had Joe Mixon. You had
Another injury prone guy.
You had Giovanni Bernard over Samaje Perine.
Which, okay, you got me there.
You had a Tyler Eifert was your tight end over CJ Uzama.
Yeah, which again, I mean, he also was injury-ish prone.
But you had a better defense in his first year than what they had this year.
Granted,
they didn't have Trey Hendrickson or any of those people, but they had a better secondary in 2019.
To me, this just felt kind of like a quick reaction.
I said it was a classic case of a team getting hot at the right time and basically taking.
You can make that argument. I mean, look, don't get twisted. I think the Bengals are talented, of course.
Well, they are.
I just think in their minds they were like,
I just think you give him a 3-year extension and let him basically stay until Burrow's rookie deal's up. Because once Burrow gets to that point, is Cincinnati going to be able to keep him? Because you got to remember, they got to pay Higgins, they got to pay Chase, they got to pay Chase, they got to pay Mixon.
I think they will.
They got to pay the offensive line to protect him.
Yeah, I think they will. I think so, because I think the culture that they're making there, I just think, I believe they'll all get paid. I don't think it'll be anything crazy. Joe Mixon is also starting to get older, so his next contract is not gonna be what he wants. Like, he's gonna want to break the bank, and they're gonna be like, "LOL, good one, kid. What do you really want?" Right. And if for a running back, that's the beginning of your end. You know what I mean?
Depending on the kind of running back you are. If you're like an
running back like him who can't spell the word health.
Well, if you're an Adrian Peterson and Derrick Henry type of running back, then yes, because you're getting the carries. But then if you're a guy like Kamara, who doesn't sit in the backfield as much as these other running backs,
and more like passing. Oh yeah, nah,
30 is not the end of the road for you yet, just because you're not a typical running back that takes the beating. You're doing other stuff like Joe Mixon. Yes, he's their primary ball carrier, but he's a guy they still line out and catch passes. So they're getting to the point now where you can maybe start using him a little differently and just kind of bring in that reliable backup to take some of the carries away from him to save him a little bit.
Which, I mean, I'm not saying they won't be able to use him, but they're not going to be able to use him to the extent that if he wants a big money deal, No one's gonna give him that.
I could still see him getting like another 4-year, like $32 million deal after this one's up.
Yeah, something. Yeah, it'll be like something like that, or something respectable. You know what I mean? Again, he's not going to take no veteran minimum.
No, he'll still get like $7-8 million a year after this.
Yeah, he'll get like 7-8 a year, which is again.
He might even get $10 million or $11 million the first couple of years of the deal, and then just kind of go from that down to $5 or $6 million, just front load it.
Yeah, if you want to do something, if you want to do like a front load contract, sure. You know, but for me, I don't know. It's just it didn't make sense for me. On why they gave him a 5-year deal. The only logical thing I can think of is they were like, "Oh, we got some success. Keep him. Like to me,
I want to play devil's advocate then too.
Ooh, I love it when you do that. Go ahead.
Does it make sense for him to take the extension? And the only reason why I say that, Kevin O'Connell was just announced as the Vikings head coach, so they just made it official that Kevin O'Connell is taking over Minnesota.
Okay.
What happens if Sean McVay retires? If you're Zach Taylor and you don't sign this extension, you very easily could have just packed up, went right back to LA to where everything started under Sean McVay, and you would have been perfectly fine.
I don't think so though. I don't think so. And the reason I want to play devil's advocate to your devil's advocate, the reason is because they are like the Rams are in a position where if they start slow, there's nothing they can do.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of in they're sort of, and I say sort of because I really mean sort of. They're sort of in the same boat as the Saints. And what I mean by that is you are where you are. You have, in terms of cap space, you don't got flexibility. You can't just be like, oh, okay, whatever, we'll get rid of you and go get like flexibility wise, your back is to a corner.
Unless they restructure, yeah.
Right, unless they restructure.
They don't have that freedom like they did last year to go pick up players.
Von Miller and
exactly. I have a feeling Von Miller will restructure.
Do that.
I think Ramsey and Miller will restructure to help.
I don't think so.
Depending on Donald. I think Von Miller will. He's 33 going on 30.
Well, no. Von will. I think Von will. Jalen Ramsey, no. Because at this point, you got the ring. It is what it is. Now go get your money.
Donald, if he retires, you're going to clear out $18 million to help. I mean, Stafford, I could see restructuring just because.
But here's the thing. See, you're hoping that they restructure.
I don't.
Right?
I'm not even worried about.
No, I'm talking about Zach Taylor. If you're going to the Rams, right? You're hoping, you're hoping that you're restructuring.
Yeah.
So that way, you can be able to work a little bit just in case you need it to happen, because it's very seldom teams go back to back, and it's even more seldom, it's even more rare they go back to back with the same roster.
And
that already going back to back is already, you're already on this unique pedestal that like very few can get.
The only reason why I brought that up
with the same roster,
the only reason why I brought that up too is going from Cincinnati to the Rams, it's pretty much the same team. You have Burrow and Stafford, who I'm going to put on the same level right now just because Burrow's only in his second year and Stafford's been doing it for 12 years. But Cooper Kupp is the Rams version of Jamar Chase. Odell Beckham was the Rams version of T. Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Woods was the Rams version of Tyler Boyd.
Yep.
Higbee's the Rams version of Uzama. And then Cam Akers and Sony Michel are basically your Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon. So offensively, you're walking into basically the same system that you have in Cincinnati, except you have a better offensive line, you have a better defense. If you can get a guy like Stafford to restructure, a guy like Von Miller to restructure, which I'm pretty sure Stafford will at this point because he's got his ring, he's going on 34. There's nothing really left for him to prove at this point. Mm-hmm. Same with Von Miller. He's got 2 rings now. Yep. It would be a perfect situation for Zach Taylor to walk into because he wouldn't really have to change too much of what he's got. Just a little bit more structuring and fine-tuning.
And you're right, but here's the thing. Like, when it comes to by the way, if you guys ever get bored, just watch bare knuckle fighting.
Hey, I watch that bare knuckle fighting.
You watch it? No way. You don't watch BKFC? No way.
Yeah.
We gonna have to talk. You and I, we gonna have to talk because Jesus, I'm telling you. I used to agree with Joe Rogan when he was like, "Yeah, we gotta take gloves out of the UFC." Yeah, nah, dog. I've been watching bare knuckle for a while, and that completely changed my mind. I was I'm good, homie.
When I first started watching UFC, they didn't wear gloves. There wasn't no rounds.
Nah, it almost felt like, hey, yo, fight to the death, and it was like, wait a minute. I remember the first highlight I ever saw was one of the older ones. I forgot who it was. He had him almost like he kind of had his arm kind of pinned like he was around his chest. He started throwing those vicious elbows to his head and knocked him out. Oh my God. When I saw that, I was like, okay, where do I go?
Watch the match right now. This is too much, Pride. We already got concussion issues across all sports.
It's entertaining to watch,
bro. You know what? I don't care. Get another concussion. Matter of fact, fight with a concussion. I don't care. Die for my entertainment. I'm kidding. All right. I'm kidding.
No, it's not America.
I'm kidding. I didn't really mean that. But yeah, I mean, look, Chris, you and I we'll have a conversation because we'll talk. But
I don't condone violence in my house. I don't watch fighting. I'm just kidding.
I was about to say no way.
My 4-year-old beats the shit out of my 8-year-old.
But because you did say that offensively they are similar, but the reason why I think it's best for Zach Taylor to keep this Bengals job is, frankly, if you really sit down and think about it, you got way more money. Let's say there's for some reason, let's say there's a better tight end out there, you can upgrade.
There is.
You know what I mean? Right. So you'll be able to upgrade, right? You fix the offensive line. You got the fun. Not only, and here's the thing: not only do you got the money to do it, they also have the draft picks to do it. Exactly. Like, so now instead you can go and be like, you know what? Free agent offensive lineman, there's no, it's lacking, or there's no guy that catches our eye. This draft has a lot of offensive linemen. A lot of good offensive linemen. Boom. You can go there. You know what I mean? Like, obviously corner, they need to work on that, because if Eli Apple is your top 2 corner, you're beat. You know what I mean? Like,
the only thing I worry about Taylor in this situation is if Cincinnati has a down year next year. Obviously, you hear about the Super Bowl hangover, and teams do tend to struggle the year after they win the Super Bowl or get to the Super Bowl more often than not. But if Cincinnati were to have a bad year next year, does Zach Taylor go back on the hot seat again? Versus if he would go to the Rams and they would have a bad year, they're going to look at the position they were in the salary cap situation. Means like they're rebuilding.
I'll be honest with you. I think if he goes to the Rams, he needs to win again. He needs to repeat. I think he would need to. I think with the Bengals, if next year, as long as he's not under 500, and if he makes it in the wild card, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think this season bought him a couple years.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And also, this Super Bowl, they lost it in the last 2 minutes. Like, that 2 minutes, and again, it was Eli Apple who I'm a top corner in the league, and then all of a sudden got burnt. And literally every time they threw the ball to him in his direction. But for me, I wouldn't have given him 5 years. I would have given him 2. Let's see how he is. If I'm Zach Taylor, I don't think about going anywhere else, because not only you got your franchise guy, you got a wide receiver 1 and number 2. You got a tight end who, can do some stuff. You know what I mean? As time goes on, you go out there, you upgrade them, and you get somebody else. You got a nice little 1-2 little setup with your running backs. Your defense is solid. Obviously, what's nice about the Bengals is what you have to upgrade. It's not like, oh, I got to upgrade offense. It's just go get a couple corners, right? One more safety. If you want to get a linebacker, go ahead. It wouldn't really matter.
Why you name 3 positions before you name line?
Is that what?
I said you named 3 positions before you name linemen.
No, I'm just saying these are things not in that order. Yeah, no, I'm
All
not
right.
saying no. If we're doing order of importance, then the offensive line is number one, of course.
All right.
Yeah, I don't want to make it seem like you could just.
They don't get
Offensive line is number one
Burrow's
because
head.
if they had even somewhat of a respectable offensive line, they win that Super Bowl.
What'll happen is they don't get offensive line seriously. What could happen is another Andrew Luck
Well,
situation.
yes, and that's what I'm worried. That's what I really am worried about. Like Joe Burrow could be another Andrew Luck if they don't protect him, and I'm scared about that because I like Joe Burrow. I like him. He's a hell of a quarterback. Hell of a quarterback, but then you get hit, and all of a sudden he's getting up, limping, and whatnot. And I'm like, well, sucks for you.
Did we
Who
talk?
wasn't injured though? You know who wasn't injured? The best quarterback in this rookie class, the best quarterback in all the football. Michael McCorkle Jones. Did y'all see that first game in Buffalo? Those treacherous conditions, and my guy threw for over 67%. You wish your quarterback could do that. You wish.
3 for 27.
Don't do that. All right, let me have one moment.
Mac
Let
and
me have
cheese.
just one moment.
New England Lord and Savior. Well, since we're talking about Boston, did we talk about basketball yet?
Not yet.
Pride.
Right.
What did your
See,
Celtics
I
do
didn't
for
want
my
to be biased.
Sixers last night, man?
I didn't want to be biased.
Marcel, what do you think of it, Bron? Since it was your team that got taken out to the woodshed and beaten.
It was heartbreaking. I even bet on the Sixers last night, man. I'm just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to deal with Pride tomorrow.
So Ron, what happened? Like, why are you so upset? Can you explain? Can you explain what happened? Can you explain how we beat the living dog boobies off of you guys? 137 or 135 to 87. Can you please explain? I was under the impression. Go ahead.
No, the Sixers had one player on the court that can score. Only 2 players got over double digits, and Brown and Tatum was just lighting us up. They both had like 30 by the end of the half. It was
honestly. I'm just so glad we got our stuff together. Yeah,
incredible rebound from the start of the season.
Phenomenal rebound. I'm just glad we got it together. I was like, I don't even know if we're even gonna make the play-in. I didn't know because the way we were playing was just not smart at all. By the way, I'm
speaking of smart.
Yeah, bro. Ankle sprain. That hurt. It hurt. But this is where I'm low key looking at that Derek White acquisition just a little differently now. Because now that we lost Smart, but guess what? We got someone who can kind of, we're not losing a lot of defense. You know what I mean? Like, listen, bro, our win streak. We are just winners. It's hard being a winner. It really is. It's just so hard. We're on a 9-game winning streak right now, And by the way, Ron, because you wanted to be petty last time I was talking about it, let's talk about some of the teams. So they started off with the Pelicans,
Y'all beat the best team in the NBA.
No. Stay over there. Don't do that. This is my moment. This is my time to shine. All right. This is my opportunity. All right. Just give me. I need this, bro, because we was rough, bro. We was down bad. I was criticizing my team, but I was still supporting my team, but it was tough. It was tough looking at people say, I'm a Celtics fan. They would look at me and I'd be like, look, man, it's good. We beat Miami. We beat the Hornets and the Pistons and the Magic. We beat Brooklyn. Then we beat the Nuggets. Then we beat Atlanta. Smacked the bejesus out of the 76ers. I'm so glad we disrespected y'all. I'm so glad. And guess what? We could win the division. We could win the Atlantic Division, bro, because we're tied with the same record.
Yeah.
No, I lied. We're game back.
You guys have a chance for a top seed in the conference.
You said what?
I said y'all have a chance for a top seed in the conference.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far now. I wouldn't go. I'm going to pump my brakes on that one, Chief. I'm going to pump my brakes on that one. As long as we're not on the play-in, honestly, I'm good. I'm good. I'm as long as we're not there, I'm all right. I'll survive. I'll be all right. I'm just scared because once I start getting excited, because Dustin, I'm gonna get excited, and then next thing you know, we're all of a sudden just gonna go on a losing streak. So I'm gonna lie. I'm slightly nervous. I'm still sticking by the Celtics. Win, lose, or draw, I'm sticking by them. Because I always tell people, you roll with your team, and you got bragging rights for life. I never give up. Never.
I think it just speaks a lot to you. I think you should have always been confident in having Tatum and Brown.
No, I was confident in them. It was just everything else around them. And the only thing I wasn't confident in them about was the fact that they played the same. I've been saying this for a while now. I always thought either one of them needs to learn how to efficiently pass and efficiently run an offense, or we need to go get a legitimate, true point guard to help do that. Because the problem is when they're both having a poor shooting night, we now have nothing. Because we just go through both of them. If Tatum's not having a good night, then it's Jaylen Brown. And if Jaylen Brown isn't having a good night, now we're screwed because we don't have any semblance of offense. And not only if they're not having a bad night, let's say they need some rest on the court, that's when we need to be able to get a point guard to be able to run and orchestrate the offense to get other guys involved. So that way the ball isn't always in their hands. You know what I mean? Like, I do like what Ime's doing. Udoka, I like what he's doing in terms of how he's staggering Jason Tatum's and Jaylen Brown's minutes. Like, he'll start them, then usually he'll sit Brown, then he like staggers them, and I like it. So that way, we only have a few minutes where our two best players are not on the floor, and I like that because, you're giving us a good opportunity. My only thing is, we need size. Let's not get it twisted, But I think on top of that, if we're looking outside, we just need a true point guard who can run the offense. So that way, when we got to give them rest, that way when they're on the floor and it's only one of them is now shooting, and now you could be the bucket getter. And when you're too tired or you need a break or you're not having a good night, we have a true point guard who can orchestrate things, tell guys where to go, what to do, have good vision, have a good way of passing the ball. So that way we're not in a situation where it's Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, or bust. You know what I mean? So we've been starting to fix that.
Well, y'all on a back-to-back tonight. If y'all lose to the Pistons and mess up the winning streak, I'm pretty sure you're gonna feel salty. But I'm proud of you guys.
I'm not gonna feel salty. I'm not. I'll be upset. Don't get it twisted. But I'm not gonna be salty because we're picking it up, and I feel like if we were to lose, we got a formula going on. So I do feel like we'll be able to kind of pick ourselves up. Because the problem was once we would lose one game, we would kind of lose another and kind of have our head down and just start pouting and whatnot. I think right now we're rejuvenated. We feel good. We're energetic. So I think and I hope that we'll be able to switch up on that. So even if we lose a game, we'll be like, you know what? It is what it is. It's one game. That's it. We move on.
Yeah, I'm kind of with what Ron said to you, like how he gave you credit for kind of always believing in the Celtics even when they weren't doing well. I mean, with me being a Chicago fan, obviously after the moves they made this offseason, I expected them to be a playoff team this year, but I didn't expect them to be in the position that they're in right now.
And that's how a lot of Chicago fans were. They were like, "Look, I think we'll be a 5th, 6th seed. Mm-hmm. We'll be a tough first round, and if we make it, great. If not, hey, we're building."
Especially with the injuries, like I never would have expected them to be where they are. And even looking last year when they made that trade for Vucevic last year, the Bulls were 18-19 when they made that trade last year and were the 6th seed. And then they lost the first 9 games after they got Vucevic, but like they were still in like a playoff position for a large chunk of last season too. So they were close last year. It was just that they didn't have, I think, enough overall scoring last year to help Zach LaVine. And now that they got it, they're finally where the fans wanted them to be. But after seeing all the injuries that they've had to deal with, I don't think there's any Chicago fan out there that would expect them to be where they are, knowing the injuries that they've had to overcome.
It's crazy, bro. We hit 25 threes that game, franchise record. Golden who? Come on, stop playing, bro. Steph what? Stop playing with me.
Don't go there.
Stop playing, bro.
Don't
Nah,
go there.
bro. Brah, we the splash trio, bro. What's the synonym for splash that has a T? Because you know what? I want a trio. Derek White is now. Derek White is he's the top 3 player in the league. The best player in the NBA is Jason Tatum, and the second best is Jaylen Brown, and the third best is Derek White. Stop playing with me. Stop playing. I'm getting a little too ahead of myself. But listen, I like where we are. You know, we're picking it up. I'm glad. Like I said, got bragging rights for life. By the way, Damien, I'm gonna talk a little bit more in depth about this on my show today. It is hilarious. It's positively the funniest thing.
What's
Because
WrestleMania?
I don't know whether or not Cody really is going back to WWE.
I was going to say, it hasn't been confirmed that he's going back to
I'm not
WWE
sure.
and having a match at WrestleMania yet.
But if he is, this is by far the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
What's WrestleMania?
They treated you like dog water before, and they gave you Stardust. You told them, I hate this, and they said, LOL, you're doing it again. You left, and the company badmouthed you to the point that New Japan didn't want any of the negative publicity anymore, which is why they didn't give you another contract, which is why they were sick of it, which is why you then joined the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega when they had their friction with New Japan. You joined that because they turned their back, or New Japan didn't want nothing to do with you no more because of that negative publicity. You then help create another company. And your entire time, the first pay-per-view you had on that company, you were taking shots at WWE and Triple H specifically when you got the sledgehammer and you smashed the chair that Hunter sits on his throne.
Yeah, when they first started, they were always taking shots.
Bro, the entire premise of AEW was FWWE. That was your entire premise. So for you to do that, and you're one of the leaders of this entire FWWE movement, for you to do that and then go back to a company you know is going to basically treat you nice for a month and then forget about you again, a company that'll be, hey, cool, thanks for being here. By the way, go paint your face again. You're going to be Stardust again. A company that has never given you a World Heavyweight Championship title run when you've deserved it, who have disrespected you constantly to the point that they saying them giving you the Intercontinental Championship is the apex of your career. A company who, when you walked, laughed and said you would never do anything. When you go back to that company, go back to your toxic ex, bro. Go back to your toxic ex, and then when the same thing happens again, I dare you to cry. I dare you.
They didn't just disrespect him; they just disrespected his family. I mean, if you think about it, look what they've done with Dusty and even Dustin Rhodes.
And the only reason now that they care about the American Dream's Dusty Rhodes, Rip, only reason they care about him, let's be fair, is just for cheap publicity, so that way they can just do the Dusty Cup crap.
Yep,
That's all it is. They don't care about him.
That's all it is. The war games and stuff like that. They use all of Dusty's ideas, but he don't get no credit for it.
No, they don't. They
So
don't, bro.
So what is WrestleMania?
What is WrestleMania?
To me, wrestling died when The Undertaker left.
There's also a rumor that Stone Cold's going to wrestle a match at WrestleMania.
Kevin Owens? Fuck me, man.
See, that's when wrestling died, is when Stone Cold, The Rock, and Triple H all started not wrestling anymore. And it was just
it's just because then they try to switch it to this PG era. And I'm like, I get it. Don't be the Attitude Era.
Don't you remember? No. That's the era they never should have went away.
Say, they can't do the Attitude Era now.
Really?
Yeah,
We had
they can because AEW is out here.
Well, that's
bro,
true.
Listen,
We had Inferno Man. for God's sake.
Some of the
Sean
stuff they done
Spears-
back then they couldn't do now.
when Sean Spears is flipping the camera off literally every other time, when Chris Jericho, when he was leading the Inner Circle against the Pinnacle, and it was, I think it was I forgot what pay-per-view it was. I forgot which one it was, but it was basically like the 5-on-5. When he's mentioning that Jack Swagger had his back when he was almost assassinated in 2012 when he was in Abu Dhabi, when he's mentioning that type of stuff, when you have MJF who literally curses every other word. You know, like I don't know. You can't tell me that like some semblance of the
they can't do a lot. They couldn't do some of the stuff they done back then. Now.
Oh yeah, no, they can't do all of it.
I should rephrase
like
it. That's
what
I meant.
Like The Rock with that whole thing where he says, "Oh, I'm gonna say it in Chinese for you," and then he, that like what he said. I don't want to say it because I feel like I'll get in trouble. But when he basically was mocking how Chinese people speak, you can't do that now. But you're damn right. You can have an alcoholic drive a beer thing to the truck to the ring and hose somebody down. Like you can do that. I don't want to do that. You can say words like "damn," "crap." Look, they break the fourth wall. When Cena was gonna face Roman Reigns, he was like, "Bro, it's called the promo, son. If you want to be the big dog, you gotta learn how to use it." If you can break the fourth wall, you could be a little edgy.
Does anybody miss those old Hell in the Cell matches when Mankind would get thrown off the top and go through the announcer table at the bottom?
Hey, I remember watching that live when it happened. That was crazy.
And it's funny because the Undertaker came out. He was like, "Yo, I thought I killed him."
Yeah, and
actually thought he
had
had
a broken ankle.
Yeah, the Undertaker broke his ankle in that match. Mankind stinking. I think.
Well, he went into the match with a broken ankle.
Mankind, I think, broke. God, if I remember right, Mankind said he broke 14 bones in that match.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And he still decided to stand up, act like nothing was wrong.
Mick Foley will never get the respect he ever truly deserves. Excuse me. He will never get the respect he truly deserves. Like, I've never seen a dude constantly. He had his ear ripped off, bro. He had his ear ripped off, and he was just chilling like nothing. Bless his heart, man. Bless his heart. Before we sign off, Dustin, what's the stat of the day, bro?
Honestly, I didn't really have one today, but I'm going to look at one that I was starting to kind of look into a couple of weeks ago, and it revolves around Ben Roethlisberger, actually.
Oh.
So everyone wants to say that Aaron Rodgers owns the Chicago Bears because of what his record is against Chicago Bears. But Ben Roethlisberger can honestly say he owns the state of Ohio. And if I can find it, which I probably can. I did find it. Look at that nonsense. But going back to college and all the teams he played in college, and then the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals, Ben Roethlisberger was 47-13 in his quarterbacking career against teams from Ohio.
Jeez. Aaron Rodgers owns a team. My guy Ben Roethlisberger owns a state. Stop playing with them.
And that was what, let me pull that back up. It was, what was he in college? In college, he was.
Oh, I know. In college, he got
in college. He was a 10-1 against the state of Ohio, and then he was 37-13 or 37-14 against Cincinnati and Cleveland as a starter, and 9 of those losses have come in the last 5 years.
Yeah, I was going to say here recently.
So, at one point they said he was 36-4 in the NFL against teams from Ohio.
That's crazy. That is crazy. This has been an episode of ASAP in the Morning. Obviously, thank you guys for joining us. On behalf of Ron, Chris, and Dustin, it is your boy Pride. We'll be back here tomorrow morning, 10 Eastern, 9 Central. Until then, y'all know what to do. Be safe.
Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Whole sports all plays.